Hill to his right. Looks around the middle, goes deep. He's got Thornton. Thornton's beat this man. Got it. 15. This kid's unbelievable. Touchdown. Junior Thornton.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
You got here just in time. Dax Milne down the sideline from Zach Wilson. And thanks for joining us. BYU touchdown, 78 yards on their own.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
From the 20, McBride off the play fake. Pass picked off, back to the end zone, to the touchdown. Touchdown Baylor. J.T. Woods, a 20-yard pick six.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Prescott to the end zone, and it's going to be caught. Amari Cooper with a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, good afternoon on this Friday afternoon as we get to September the 10th. There's much to get to. We will talk Cowboys and Buccaneers last night, and yes, 9/11, 20 years later with Navy SEAL Clint Bruce. We will hear from UCF, Houston, Brigham Young, and Cincinnati, those who cover them, plus talk Baylor football as well. But today, the Big 12 expansion became official. And Mack Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics, right off the top of the show with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak. And Mack, I know that you couldn't quite say too much on Wednesday, and there's probably still some things that have to be tied up. What does today mean, in your opinion?
Well, I think first, before I go down that road, you mentioned 9/11, and as you know, tomorrow paying special tribute, and just I know it's a memory and etched in all of our minds, and just blessings to all of those that suffered, and to all of those that had the courage to fight through, and just prayers and thoughts out to all of those people.
So this is done, right? I mean, there's still some, I'm sure, T's to cross, dot the I's or whatever, but now you can, the Big 12 is going to expand.
Yeah, I think it's going to expand with 4 terrific institutions, great institutions academically, and certainly athletically over time. They've proven that they're as good as anybody in the country, and I'm excited for the 8 remaining members, and I'm excited for those 4 new members, and I think we have a real chance to be viable. Today speaks to certainty and stability and relevance in the Power 5 landscape, and certainly know and understand that actions speak louder than words, and we'll have to go compete and do all of that on the field, court, etc. But I'm excited. I think it's a great day for the Big 12, and I think we have a great future ahead of us.
Mac, how quickly did the expansion really come about? Was it immediate, or was it something that took a couple weeks?
I think that the thought was immediate, but quite frankly, I think there were some things that we all tried and needed to go through and get through in relation to just speaking candidly, first reaction, right, is you look to yourself and, okay, what's best for us? What's our next best move? What's out there? And I think it took, probably a week, 2 weeks for the 8 of us to realize that, and our best chance is together, and we can be viable. We can continue to be Power 5. We can continue to have a seat at the CFP table. We continue to have the best men's basketball conference in the country, and so I think when we got to that point, Paul, the process really moved rapidly, expedited, and we quickly, and clearly understood that those 4 were the best 4, and we're certainly excited and grateful, and again, it's now looking forward, and you've heard me say this on the show before. It's really hard to move forward if you keep looking in the rearview mirror, and we're going to look forward. I told our coaches today that the work has just begun, and today, don't get me wrong, today is an exciting day, and it's one that should be celebrated, but we'll need to get back to work immediately and understand that there's some hard work ahead of us, meaning the Big 12, to be the very best conference that we can be, and I certainly look forward to being part of that.
So, Mac, when it comes to the actual discussions, I know you probably can't tell us every detail, but, when people like ourselves or fans are talking about the attraction of certain schools, we talk about everything from location to enrollment to market to, this and that. And when it boils down to it, and you guys are determining which schools are the best fits for the Big 12, what things are you looking at to help you make that decision? What are the pulls, so to speak, when looking at who's a good expansion candidate?
Yeah, I think that you're certainly looking at TV market. That's not the primary factor, but it's important. TV market in my mind speaks to potential. You can be in a large TV market and nobody really care, and so it's certainly an important factor, but it's not the factor. I think the one that's probably more important is, no matter what market you're in, who's watching, right? The numbers. What type of audience do you have when you're playing a home game? Meaning, how many eyeballs are watching via TV, and even when you're on the road. And so that was certainly an important part of it. Look, I always caution to talking so much about it because it feels like when you do, you forget about all of your other sports. And hopefully, here at Baylor, we don't do that. We love all 530 of our student athletes and all 19 sport programs, and we want them all to win championships. But football is a big piece of this, such a huge part of it because it drives the TV. And so, you look at, Craig, you look at football relevancy, and I think you can say, emphatically that these 4 institutions have won over time. And you think about, each one of them, and they've won at a high level with multiple coaches. And so I think that speaks to commitment. I think it speaks to infrastructure, resources, and I think it speaks to access to, meaning, ability to recruit and be close to really, really good talent. And then, certainly the men's basketball piece of this was important when you think about, the Big 12 conference being the best in men's basketball. I think that really really important for our brand. And, I know that there's already been stuff out there, Ken Palm, that we continue to be the number one rated conference with the addition of the 4. And I do think it's a chance for women's basketball to continue to get better, and all of our other sports. So, and then I think there's intangibles, Craig. There's things like the people at those places, at those institutions, and I can tell you that I certainly believe there's really great leadership at each of the institutions, and so that's a part of it as well. So those four clearly rose to the top when we looked at it through those different lenses.
Mac, I know that we don't have a lot of time with you, and you gave us plenty of time Wednesday, but 2 divisions, we've learned that. Do you have any clue about the divisions yet? Is it still plenty of time to work on that? And do you want all the Texas schools to be in one division?
Yeah, I would just say timeout. And I know there's been some of that out there, but I can categorically say that we haven't talked about any detail of divisions. That certainly, obviously makes sense with, what could be 14 teams for a couple of years potentially, still fluid. But and then thereafter, if you're back at 12, so that makes sense. But I still think there's a lot to talk about, a lot to consider, and I can at least for myself, I'm not ready to go vote on divisions tomorrow.
Okay.
Does this feel like you're starting a brand new conference, maybe even more than expanding one?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's this brotherhood amongst the 8, and I think when you go through adversity together, and we've done that over the last 4 weeks, that there's an opportunity to bring you closer together. And I really believe this has brought the 8 institutions closer together, the 8 presidents, chancellors, the 8 athletic directors. And so there's always going to be that piece. But then there's this newness of opportunity, and how can we maximize this? How can we maximize it from now until they enter the league? How can we maximize it once they get into the league, and then beyond 24, 25? And so there's this newness, this opportunity to really kind of roll up your sleeves and new strategic plan on how we move this forward and we best position our conference.
Mac, there's been a lot of talk about, the Power 5 part of this. What constitutes that or determines that? There's a lot of people that I read and I'm like, it's maybe the Big 12 won't be Power 5. How does all of that work to where go?
No, go ahead. No,
I was just, how does all of that work?
And are you guys assured that you'll stay that way? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, when you think about really this all started with Autonomy 5, and it was really Autonomous 5.
Right.
And it was a legislative, an NCAA legislative designation. And that designation, until there's some other model, different model, and, there's certainly been a lot of conversation about that. As long as there's an Autonomy 5 designation, which then people translated into Power 5,
right?
We're going to be part of that, and we feel strong. We feel good about that. We think in terms of revenue, not just TV, but other revenue, CFP, basketball units that we earn because participation in the number of teams that participate in advance within the men's basketball tournament, all those sources of revenue, absolutely will continue to be in the top 5, amongst the top five conferences, and I think it remains to be seen where we land within the five. And so, continue to have a seat with the CFP. That contract ends in 2026. Is there a different structure? Do we end up expanding? Is that 8? Is that 12? What does that look like? But I feel confident when you match up our football team versus the rest of the country. I think we all feel really confident that we're going to continue to be part of that group. And so I think we all feel good about how we're positioned. And so, yes, I think we feel strongly and again, know that we got to continue to perform out on the field, but we feel really strong about our position in college athletics.
Final thing, Mac, obviously today's a day for celebration or enjoyment and all of that, satisfaction. But aren't you guys basically already about 2 weeks down the road from what everyone even knows today, that you've already looked at things that you will have over the next week, 2 or 3, and that's already under discussion, and today's just basically icing on the cake from what the last 2 months have been like?
Yeah, I think just, today makes it official, obviously. And I think many of us have already, as you mentioned, Smoak, already been thinking about, 2 weeks beyond, 3 weeks beyond, a year beyond. And how do we maximize this opportunity? What are all of the things that we need to tackle and address? And, I'm just excited. I'm excited for the 8 of us. I'm excited for the 4 institutions. Great to Bob Bowlesby and the staff. I do think this was a heavy lift, but many participated. And, I think I really believe that we landed in the very best possible spot that we could. And, we have a conference that will be and continue to be relevant in the national landscape of college athletics.
Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it. I know everyone appreciates the time, and everybody, all the schools that put into it and getting this done, because just 2 months ago, there was a huge dark cloud and it was almost life support. Now, all of a sudden, there's breath, fresh air, quite frankly. Thanks for your time. We'll see you tomorrow at the game.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
Mac Rhodes, Director of Athletics at Baylor University. And one of the things also, and I'm trying to get this out, and we only had a few minutes with him because is that the possibility that Baylor, Iowa State, TCU, Tech, all of the big or the 8 remaining teams, and of course, Oklahoma and Texas have their own Tier 3 because of the Longhorn Network and OU's regional network, and that brings in tons of money. But that money that they get from ESPN, that $4 million and other Tier 3 rights, some of the conferences, that's rolled into what we see with their numbers, whether it's 42 or 48 or 54 or whatever, where the Tier 3 numbers, the revenue for teams in the Big 12 has been separated from what they have been getting when you see the number they get for the TV network. And other numbers in other conferences appear to be rolled into that number. That's still a long way to, close the gap, but that is something that sometimes has been overlooked.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the Tier 3 rights become if the Big 12 actually does muscle up and do their own network or whatever it is.
Tomorrow, 20 years, 9/11, horrific day in America and how it changed the world. Clint Bruce, Navy SEAL, joins us next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got the summer savings event that's been going on the last few months. They've just had deals and deals and deals, and they had a Labor Day savings event here recently, and then the Labor Day savings prices, well, those are still continuing on, and those can be had over at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Right now, take full advantage, responsive power, advanced technology, exceptional agility. All of that is combined in the new Cadillacs to bring a smile to your face on every drive. And at Richard Carr Cadillac, they will find the right Cadillac for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan or perhaps an XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size to fit your lifestyle. Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All pre-owned cars and trucks are on the lot, and they're ready to be moved during the Labor Day savings event. Multiple cars and trucks priced to get you back on the road, and each pre-owned vehicle goes through a 172-point inspection before it ever hits the lot. With dozens of lenders, they say yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. And Richard Carr, for those in the Waco, Central Texas area, is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. You can come by the dealership and take a test drive, or you can get in contact with them, and they will bring the test drive to you. Labor Day has come and gone, but the savings continue all month long. Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, meet all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corbin. New look bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens. New touchless water fountain outside of each locker room, and both include shower, sauna, and whirlpool. And a world-class tennis court facility and youth academy led by Pro Britt Cole. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
SEAL Team 5. That's all you have to say. Being a Navy SEAL, Clint Bruce spoke at one of our banquets to honor student athletes for us a few years back, has been a part of the show. joins us, and this is an honor to have him anytime, much less, of course, on the eve of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. How have you been, sir?
Man, I've been well. I mean, that first night getting to meet you and getting to honor those kids. They've gone forth and done great things. Was a real privilege, and it's a privilege to be on the phone with you again today.
What does tomorrow mean?
It's hard to put into words. I think 20 years ago tomorrow was this moment where you had to put to the test everything you'd learned along the way, especially all the metaphors that we have in sports and all the kind of things we throw about in life. It was one of those moments where all those things go to the test, and you figure out what sticks and what makes it and who means what they say. And in that sense, it was one of the most brutally beautiful privileges of my life to be in a situation where I got to be surrounded by amazing men who meant what they said, and to start going right to work, and then to look back at our nation and see her ascend into this beautiful version of who and what she's supposed to be, this human experiment called America. It was just a moment where you figured out who was who and who meant what they said, and you got to measure the will of someone who decided they wanted to be our enemy.
Clint, the last 20 years, obviously, there's a lot has happened, and your work with what you do with veterans and your brothers that carry the burden even today of everything that went on over there with us leaving Afghanistan and the war being over, and there's a lot of weird things to feel. How has that affected those people that served over there and have to watch what's gone on here in the last couple of months?
I think it's been particularly disappointing that not that leaving Afghanistan, that was inevitable, but how it was left. And I think a lot of us kind of push back against the terminology that the war is over, because in our mind, the war was against terrorism. The war was never against Afghanistan. The war was never against a particular people. The war was against terrorists. And in that sense, the war is still very much alive. And many of us kind of look to that as a recognition that you have to stay vigilant, and you have to train, and you have to stay ready, and you have to encourage those forward right now, and you have to remember everything we learned for 20 years over there fighting the war on terror.
Clint, can you try to explain what it takes to be not just a Navy SEAL, but anybody that serves our country, that goes into a foreign country or isn't even here, that's protecting the freedom of this country? You can't just walk off the street and do that, although some people join, enlist, whatever.
Mechanically, you do. Mechanically, you walk off the street and you sign up.
Yeah.
And I actually love the way that you phrase that, because I've always maintained, I love the Admiral Chester Nimitz quote: "There are no extraordinary men. There are only ordinary men who are called to be extraordinary in moments." And I think one of the ways you ask your question that's particularly encouraging is, listen, I love being part of the Special Operations Screening. I certainly love being an officer in the Naval Special Warfare community. But I was always amazed and blown away by the courage, conviction, and capability of the men and women that served in every unit. The infantrymen who, listen, we got to shape the terrain of a lot of our fights. Like, we picked the fights we got into. And you have these amazing, 11 Bravos and 0311s of the Marine Corps that just stayed where the heat was and took it on the chin and then fought back. And I've always been amazed by, again, the courage, caliber, and quality of all the men and women that serve. And then, as you know, would carry the load to extend that branch of recognition of the first responder community back here in the United States. There's just no way I could have gone over were there not brave men and women here willing to take care of my family when I was gone. And that's one of the things I have trouble talking about, in the sense that, I got so many phone calls and so many emails from my friends that were first responders in the hours after 9/11, because they knew I was already overseas when it happened, and we pivoted right to the Middle East. And I got all these affirmations and just words of conviction from these men and women who are wearing the uniform back here, going, "Hey, we got your wife, we got your mom." And I'll never forget that permission to be courageous and that permission to go forward. And, there's the worst of humanity, but the best of America in those days.
You mentioned Carried the Load, which is the organization that you run that helps people with PTSD and different things that came back from overseas in the war. Could you talk a little bit more about that for our people watching now?
I'd love to. Stephen Holly, who was my teammate at the Naval Academy, we served together in the special operations community. Stephen runs Carry the Load now. We started it together. I'm much more of an invasion guy than I am an occupation guy. So once we hit a particular level of critical mass, I think it's better to let the quarterback come up and have the press conferences than to move to snaggle-faced linebackers. But I'm still very close with Carry the Load, and Carry the Load's an amazing organization, and see what Stephen and Debbie and the team are doing with it now. And I'm still very much, I go there every year, but Carry the Load was meant to plant a flag in the month of May, and to use the month of May to recognize all the sacrificial services, which are law enforcement, military, fire and rescue, culminating in an exclusive celebration of fallen military on Memorial Day. And it has 4 national relays throughout the month of May: Seattle to Dallas, West Point to Dallas, Chicago to Dallas, and North Dakota to Dallas. And 24/7, we have buses and amazing people walking towards Dallas. And every 5 miles, you listen to the story of someone who misses someone. You ask who you're carrying, and you just listen, and you let them know we're never going to forget the person you miss most that thought we were worth fighting and dying for. And Carry Load just had its 10th anniversary, and it was amazing, and it's incredible to see what's happening now under Stephen's leadership.
Clint, obviously on 9/11, 20 years ago tomorrow, the country probably was, I'm not saying as together as ever before, but things like that unfortunately seem to have to happen for sometimes for us to be on one page. And it just seems like it's just gotten away from that so badly in many ways. Why can't we be like that all the time without tragedy?
Because I think there's absent a sense of urgency that only tragedy and calamity can sometimes produce. It's just emotional entropy. You rise to you're supposed to be. And there's a Greek philosopher that said tragedy produces what government promises. And it's this universal recollection that none of this is free, that it takes men and women willing to create an ecosystem that lets success exist and freedom exist and hope exist. And I think it's only when it's potentially taken from you is when you're forced to remember it.
Tragedy produces what government promises. Man, that really hits. It really hits.
Well, yeah. That needs to be on like everybody's welcome mat, yeah. or when they walk in the door where they work or whatever else.
Well, and that's just a recognition of human nature as much as it is anything else. And I think, but Sebastian Younger, who wrote the book Tribes and was in Restrepo, I heard it from him, and I was profoundly affected when I heard it the way you were when I said it. So it's a pretty remarkable quote.
Clint, you're an amazing man. Clint sent me he asked me for the number. I said, gave him your number, Paul, that you call him from. And so
I don't necessarily need the documentaries to tell me what happened. I don't necessarily need the documentaries to remind me what happened. And that's not disparaging documentaries. It's just always been in the front of my consciousness professionally and personally, just because of what our life has been like since then. Being in the profession of arms since then, and then coming into the private sector, but still be involved in the veteran community and still being involved in national security. It's just, I just don't, managing my emotions from remembering doesn't need the prompting of a documentary.
Sure.
And again, documentaries are important. It's just not something I watch.
Tell everybody again about how you help those who come back from serving our country with your program.
Well, I think there's a variety of ways. One with Carry the Load, obviously, and then there's another organization called America Warrior Partnership .org, and I can send you links to these. And then one that I'm really, really proud of right now is warriors-care.org, and that's a group of former special operations personnel that have affiliated to, one, just take care of the Afghan and people that have gotten out, to help them build a life beyond Afghanistan, because that they earn that in their support of us. And so just being able to go to bed every night knowing that you did something that was consistent with what you said you do daily when you were this peak version of what you were. And so America's Warrior Partnership, carrytheload.org, warriors-care.org. And then for me, I just love building businesses, allow hometown heroes to come home and rebuild their hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Just creating entrepreneurial and professional opportunities for veterans and their families as they come home. And that is just such a fulfilling deal. The way I describe it is there's 4 maps that matter. There's the ball field, the battlefield, the boardroom, and the breakfast table. And for some of us, the ball field and battlefield were literal maps in our lives, but now they mean to us what they mean to anybody else. And the ball field is perform at a high level mentally and physically. The battlefield is protect those whom God has entrusted to us. The boardroom is provide for those whom God has entrusted to us. And the breakfast table is be a part of a family that we love, loves us, and matters to others. And why maps are so important is because if you have a map, the worst you'll ever be is wrong, but you won't be lost. And I've been wrong and lost, and I hate them both, but I'll take wrong over lost any day. And so what I love doing is going, hey, what did the ball field and the battlefield teach us that matters in the boardroom? And where are leaders that are on the high ground on the boardroom, and how do I follow them there, just like it is on the ball field and the battlefield? I mean, being good as an athlete and an operator was simply a matter of chasing the right people to the right places and transitioning out of as an athlete or as an operator, the same thing. Hey, find someone who's who you want to be 10 years from now and chase them, just like you did when you're a freshman in a locker room, find a linebacker you want to be and be like them, be your version of them. And so I get to do that daily. And it's a real privilege and pleasure to show leaders from the boardroom the lines that are coming off the battlefield and watching as they do amazing things on the maps they're on now.
He went to the Naval Academy, played football for the Naval Academy, and, of course, SEAL Team 5 as well. Clint, any business, if you're a CEO, and we have an audience now, Clint, that goes border to border and coast to coast, if you want a keynote speaker, you can go to clintbruce.com. And they have not only Clint, but also many others. And I will tell you, the room will be deadly silent in a good way because of the message.
Not asleep. Ideally not asleep.
No, I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm telling you. Hang on every single word. Clint, man, we appreciate you. Always will. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for all you do. And thanks for the encouragement you have to all your listeners.
Clint Bruce, SEAL Team 5. Naval Academy linebacker. We mentioned that just a second ago. And again, on the eve of 9/11.
By the way, I've never been madder at a telemarketer that called in the middle of that, like beeped in, like, no.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Have you ever seen that documentary mentioned Restrepo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's very intense.
Yeah.
Very, very, very intense.
What's it called?
Restrepo. It's about a group of soldiers that are in a very tucked away mountain outpost. It's a very pivotal outpost, but it's pivotal because of its location, and its location makes it like the most dangerous place on the planet for being attacked by Al-Qaeda and things like that. They're basically just all by themselves on a mountaintop with very little cover, and they've got to just hold it down for, until the next wave comes in. But yeah, it's very, very intense documentary of U.S. soldiers in like the most dangerous outpost in Afghanistan, I believe, and it's a few years old, but very interesting watch.
I just wish that we could have the togetherness like we always have. I brought that up. By the way, there's a couple of Cowboys notes. Craig just showed me this. Lyle Collins has been suspended 5 games.
Yeah, that's not good news.
And Michael Gallup, and I give Michael Benkin or whatever. He's not whatever. He's a good reporter. That Michael Gallup had a calf strain that he might be out 3 to 5 weeks. Of course, for the Cowboys,
that's 6 to 10.
6 to 10.
So Lyle Collins was apparently suspended for not showing up to drug tests, just missing drug tests. So only reason you'd really do that is because you're probably going to pop positive for drugs, or you're just the laziest human being on earth.
You lose all of last year. And a lot of it, there were thoughts that he got himself out of shape as well, and he had to deal with a lot. And this is such an incredible story of what he had to deal with on draft week.
And that would mean it was PEDs over weed, really.
And also maybe he had to go to something to help him get through what he dealt with as far as injuries and rehab or whatever. But still, so they go and we have Grayson Grunhafer coming up. And by the way, the text line in the chat room, I have been able to get to it, and we're trying to respond to some of you as well, as many as we can. Thank you so much for being with us on this day. A lot of you joined us back at the end of July because of Texas and Oklahoma and the SEC. And look where we are today. And a lot of you There's still a lot of work to do, still a lot of shows to do, and we want you to be with us along the way as there's still transition and other decisions. As I said earlier, as I had somebody tell me earlier today, the announcements today is ceremonial. This was something they've known for a few days. They're already 2 and 3, 4 weeks down the road. Today is just the official part of it. They're working on much, much more
TV deals. That's what they're working on.
And I think I'll be able to touch into that at some point in between a couple of our guests about some estimations that might be even better news than people think from the TV networks.
Yeah.
The Cowboys played their asses off last night. 31-29. Yep, they had the turnover. First time anyone's had a +3 turnover, 450 yards of offense. Opponent had 100 yards in penalties and didn't win the game.
Yeah, that's the Cowboys. I did a podcast for a guy who also has a site on the F5 network, but for Play Action Pools the other day. And I said, look, here's what the Cowboys are going to do. They are going to make it look like they are toe-to-toe with the Bucs, but then they will find a way for that to fall apart. Now, and then in the aftermath, Michael Gallup out, Lyle Collins out. Real quick on that, what they should do is kick Zach Martin over to right tackle and let Connor McGovern play. I thought Connor McGovern had a heck of a game last night in the face of Ndamukong and Vita Vea, and I think Vita Vea was the difference in the game last night, in the Cowboys not scoring a touchdown and keeping it to a field goal. That last drive, he was in the backfield.
Yeah, and he was like right up. Sood made some plays, but not like he was disrupting things. Okay. When we come back, Grayson Grundhafer, our schedule the rest of the way, and you should be able to see kind of the graphic of our lineup at times. Grayson Grundhafer, then we still have to check in with, and not have to, we are going to check in with writers who cover UCF at 4:20, Houston at 4:45, Cincinnati around 5:30, and then also Brigham Young just after 4 o'clock with Jake Hatch. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. All right, Waco Custom Marketplace. Waco Custom Marketplace and Brian Bauer and his family with what they do. And, with Baylor playing at home tomorrow against Texas Southern, and if you all of a sudden, well, for whatever reason, you just kind of forgot. There's a game tomorrow. There's tailgating tomorrow at the Brazos parking location. Tailgating throughout McLean Stadium. Or maybe just what you're going to put on the grill for yourself at some point this weekend. Right now, Waco Custom Marketplace, which is a phenomenal place to get your tailgate food. Fresh salmon portions, $12.99 a pound. They have chicken tenders for $3.25 a pound. Boneless pork chops for $2.25 a pound. Tri-tip, there's a tailgate food. Hobby Howe has a great tri-tip at $4.50 a pound. New York strip steak, if it's something you want to cook on the grill on Sunday night or next week, it's $7.50 a pound. Also, for the morning time, if you're going to do something, 20% off all muffins. And jalapeno cheese summer sausage, not bad for a tailgate. Little snack, $4.25 a pound. Regular summer sausage, $3.99 a pound. Steak, that's beef, poultry, pork, and seafood. Waco Custom Marketplace, open until 6 tonight. And tomorrow, they're open as well, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marcos. Pizza lovers get it.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
Since its inception, Pickup Outfitters has remained politically neutral. We love trucks of every persuasion, not just red and blue ones. But people keep asking us where we stand, and for this one time, we're going to break our neutrality. We oppose any government intervention or legislation to end truck nudity. We believe in the American right to drive nude vehicles. We think it's disgusting. We fight it every place we can, and we want to end it, but we want to end it the right way, peaceably. Therefore, we call on Congress and President Biden to respect the rights of truck owners. Our founding fathers didn't own a truck, but if they did, I bet they would have put a bed cover and running boards on their truck. The right to keep and bear your truck the way you want is fundamental to the fabric of this nation, and we believe in that right. So we urge you to come and take it at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com.
The Labor Day sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels with the new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Pick out the 1500 Lone Star Quad Crew Cab, which offers style and dependability for any job. Come see this incredible full-size pickup truck today. It's the Labor Day sales event going on now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com recruiting analyst. Bearcast with Craig Smoak on Tuesdays. That's always full of an hour plus. He joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Grayson, today's news, the expansion, it's official now. 4 teams overall. 2 teams in Florida, Ohio, and also even in Utah and south into Houston, the southeast part of Texas. Does that help recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does, just because it provides kind of a clear future of the conference. And I think that's big, that you're solidifying things with these 12 teams. And so, again, I think it's more the stability part. Now, as far as recruiting goes, I think it'd be easy to say, oh, now there's a school in Florida, so they're for sure going to recruit Florida really well, or Utah or whatnot. But I think it's more of this theory that if there's a player in those states and Baylor sees a possibility that they could land them or they're a good fit, then yes, I think it helps. And we've seen, with Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos, they're recruiting Utah really well. They've done a really nice job in that area. They also recruited Florida a little bit this cycle as well. So it'll be nice to see kind of what things change, if it opens up a few more opportunities for the team as a whole. But right now, I think it's more about stability. That's the biggest thing that recruits are probably looking for in my mind. And based on what they've told me, it's about, what's the outlook of this conference, and is it going to stay together? And I think we kind of got a clear answer today.
Will that keep people from maybe decommitting now? Baylor lost Zach Pyron last week, and at least commitment wise for now, they're not going to stop on it. But do you think this will stem that tide?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. Now, I don't think Zach Pyron's decommitment really had a whole lot to do with Baylor, the Big 12 type stuff, because I think these reports have already been out there even when he made that decision. So, I mean, maybe it had a part in it. I think, location's another factor, but I will say with him, I don't think Baylor's done recruiting him, and I don't think Baylor's out of it, to be completely honest, for Zach Pyron. As far as other guys go, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing. Like I said, that stability is huge. And so I don't think there'll be any decommitment decisions that are solely based on the Big 12 conference as a whole. I think if a guy's going to leave, it's because, there's a big time offer that comes their way or one of the schools that's maybe a tier above Baylor comes around and offers. That could maybe change some things, but I don't think it'll be because of the conference.
So, Grayson, last week there was a lot to like. There were some things that, you chalk up to it being game number one, and some other things that you go, okay, that was a little bit of a negative. Texas Southern tomorrow. I put in my prediction that if it's anything less than like a full-on blowout, that's going to be a disappointment. How are you feeling about Texas Southern? What do you need to see tomorrow?
Yeah, so everyone says the biggest jump is from week 1 to week 2. And to be honest, I kind of wish Baylor was playing a better team in week 2 so we could get a real sense for the jump that they make. Because to be honest, you're really not going to learn anything positive, in my opinion, out of this matchup outside of them, going out and winning this game. They're supposed to win this game by 40. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. This is one of the worst teams I think Baylor's played in the last decade. And so they're 4-32 in their last 36 games. So again, this should be a very, very easy win. So the only things that you're really going to look at is how dominant is performance. So basically, you're pretty much only going to leave this game with negatives if it is somewhat close. Baylor just needs to go out there, run the ball like they did in week 1. And instead of, fumbling the ball in the red zone or having some miscues where you're settling for field goals, finish those drives off. Capitalize on your red zone opportunities. And I think they'll be able to do that this weekend. The other side of it, I also want to see Gary Bohannon, continue to develop. He's a young guy. He made his first start on the road. Now he makes his first start at home. I'd like to see him air it out a little bit, take a couple more shots this week, and hopefully capitalize on a few of them to his talented receivers. And that would be nice to see as well. I mean, Prairie View A&M had 354 passing yards on him. So Baylor should be able to get it going in the pass game as well as the run game. And defensively, I need to see a team that's much more focused. I felt like at times they were a little lackadaisical in that Texas State game. It felt like Baylor was ahead by 20 the whole time, but they simply weren't. And so Baylor's defense really need to play with more of a sense of urgency. And I think they know that. And I believe this week they need to come out and make a statement. In the time that the starters are in, they need to hold Texas Southern to under 10 points. And they need to really dominate this game because that's what they're supposed to do on the defensive side all year long. They did not do that in the first week, and now they're taking on a Texas Southern team who was frankly really bad offensively week 1. So Baylor should be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, they got smoked badly in their opening game. And that would be nice just to come out. And it doesn't need to be like 16-6 in the second quarter or, I don't know how you score points in the first quarter. It depends. But it would be nice just to take the game, choke it out, and then move on and get a lot of other people some reps. But who knows? Grayson, real quick from me, I asked you about recruiting because of the incoming schools eventually, with Florida now being a state that's in the conference, Houston now another school in Texas in the conference, and then Brigham Young up in the mountain zone, time zone, and then, of course, Cincinnati and Ohio. Do you get does Baylor get any kind of a bump out of this anytime soon with the class of 2022? Anything in particular that they at least, hey, we're no longer looking for a pulse. We're no longer on life support. We are now at least stabilized?
I think, that's a really interesting question, Smokey, because I wish I could tell you they're going to get this massive boost and they're going to take this huge jump in the final, what is it, 3 months till the first signing day. But to be honest, they still have 19 commits. So they still are only working with probably, I would say, 3 spots. So that's why it's really hard for me to say they're going to get a huge boost because they just don't have a lot of spots to take players. So, I can't really say that they're going to get a huge boost this year, but hopefully in 2023, it really opens up the floodgates a little bit. That's been a year I've really highlighted and targeted as that's the year that I think Baylor takes that jump into the top 25 recruiting wise. under Dave Arandon's staff. They've put together a really nice recruiting staff. The coaches on staff are really good recruits. And so I think 2023 is where you could see, that pay some dividends, that you can go, sell that Florida is a place that Baylor will get to play every so often. We don't know how the divisions are going to work. And same with BYU and Cincinnati. And I think there is a ceiling there that Baylor could kind of break through and try to add some guys from various parts of the country. But for this class in particular, I just don't see it. I can't sit here and say, yeah, that's going to be a big boost when they just simply don't have a lot of spots left.
Grayson, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Grayson Grunhafer with us Fridays, 3:45. Sikkim365.com, recruiting analyst. There are times he might have 4 to 6 stories up on the premium section, pinned up at the top on recruiting and much more. Craig, you did your post game. Paul and JD do the post game show. And then didn't you do another one midweek or week into it, some things from the game as well about Baylor? Thought I saw a couple of pinned articles from you as well.
I wrote some articles, yeah.
So that's always up in the pin section. And you have to be special, to get into that pin section, don't you, Paul?
Yeah, they quit pinning my stuff, so.
Do I need to talk to the...
No, I'm just kidding.
All right, now when we come back, all right, this is when we start, which will be a stretch of 4 different writers who cover 4 of the newest members. And again, the timeline, July 1st, 2023 for Brigham Young, and the following year for UCF, Houston, and also Cincinnati, although Bob Bowlesby, commissioner, made it clear that there's a good chance that could be moved up a year. A lot of it depends on those schools taking care of their exit fees and how they get away from what they are in the AAC, how that works out. And right now, there are 10 teams in the Big 12. It's crazy. It's the Big 12. Used to be 12. Now it's 10. At one point, it basically could have been 8. And now it could be 14. And then back to 12. It's crazy how it bounces up and down. Mac Rose joined us earlier today. If you want to go to Craig Smoak's timeline on Twitter, at Craig Smoak, some of the quotes from Mac, we'll also have that available, of course, on all the various ways of what we do. Hayden Bumpus is with us today, and Paul Catalina set us up, the mothership. This is Gopher Warrior Bowl. This is Gopher Stadium, South Grand Prairie, and Midway football tonight. And I've been doing high school football covering it for 40 years. Never been here before. Always heard about it. Never been here before. It is built into a bowl. That's why it's the Gopher Warrior Bowl. Warriors are the name of the team for South Grand Prairie. This is cool as hell, guys. Midlothian has an angle of where we are close to the field, like overhanging the stands. Great, great opportunity for us in the broadcast. But this is cool. This reminds me a lot of Rose Stadium, which is now... I don't know what the name of it is. They named the health system. It's built in a bowl.
Yeah. What's
all grass?
SFA is in a bowl too, right?
Homer Bryce, my alma mater, is built in a bowl. Yeah.
But I'll tell you that when I drove around, because it was kind of tricky to figure out where the entrance was. I'm sure you guys experienced that to get to the stadium. This high school looks like every high school from a movie in the 80s, like the architecture of it. Like when I drove up, I half expected to see a guy with a Thunderbird, throw a soda pop at a nerd.
Like John Travolta, like
yeah,
that?
Yeah. Or Teen Wolf. You remember Teen Wolf?
No.
Oh, okay.
I did not. I did not know Teen Wolf. It's an older stadium, but there's the obviously the new type of turf. Thanks to Mr. Matthew and also to Louis Tovar for their hospitality here today, and also Superintendent Linda Ellis, who opened up this booth for us to broadcast in.
Yes. They've treated us very well, and many other places could take note.
South Grand Prairie High School and Midway will have the game 6:30 pregame. 7 o'clock is the kick on the 365 Sports on YouTube, and, of course, Sikkim 365 Radio, the app, and much more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio upcoming. Well, Brigham Young's a part of the conference and will be officially, and Jake Hatch, who covers BYU, will join us next on Sikkim 365 Radio. The City of Woodway. I've told you about some of the concerts they have coming up, and I'm going to give you ways to win tickets to these concerts. How about that? If you want to go to some of there's DWW Friends is a code word. Here's what I want you to do. There's a concert tonight. Too late for that. It's a concert at Arboretum featuring Jacko Pierce. Enjoy Slow Rise and Southern Roots Brewery while jamming to the local favorite. Get your tickets. Go to discoverwoodway.com for those tickets if you want for tonight. But next week, concerts at the Arboretum features Blue Water Highway. Join Discover Woodway at the Pavilion for amazing live music and get your tickets today again at discoverwoodway.com. If you are in the Waco area and you would like a couple of tickets to go to see Blue Water Highway next Friday at the Arboretum, then text me on the text line. The first two that do that, I'll get you a couple of codes for that, code numbers for that concert. It's 254-339-1122. The Woodway Family Center continues clinics at the park, flag football, sand volleyball, and much more. Discover Woodway app. It's always available to you. And the 7 hotels that are around the corner from Lake Waco, around the corner from Baylor University, McLean Stadium, the Farrell Center, and Magnolia, and Balcones. DiscoverWoodway.com.
Lions and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here comes the blitz. Fake throw. Prescott hangs in, throws, caught. That is Lamb, and Lamb is, as the field judge looks at it, a touchdown.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Every time we have Jake Hatch on the show, he works for like 9 different outlets, but one of them is also the Zone Sports Network, Locked on Cougars, covers Utah as well. They play each other this week in the Holy War, but that's not even, I know it might be there. Maybe it is. I'm not sure, Jake, but is that the biggest story? Is it Brigham Young, Utah, or today's news for Brigham Young?
There are very few things that would overshadow the Holy War because that's a game that involves this entire state, literally. But BYU making it into the Big 12 has overshadowed it, at least for the next 24 hours.
BYU has been wanting to get into a conference pretty much since they went independent. I know that this was kind of a move to grow their brand. Did this take longer than they thought? Are they happy with the timeline, or how much of a struggle has this been?
I remember at the outset when they initially announced they were going independent, there were a lot of people who thought 3-4 years we'll jump into a conference, life will be good. And then as things kind of got a little longer and longer, we got towards that decade mark. I remember talking with some people who thought that at some point BYU is just going to throw up their hands and say, you know what? We're sticking independent forever. We're not even going to look at other options. So I think that the timeline has gone a little bit longer than a lot of people have expected. But I can tell you this much. There are thousands of BYU fans who are over the moon about being members of the Big 12.
What do you think about the fit for BYU in the Big 12, just in terms of the teams that are already here, but also the ones that will be coming along as well?
I think BYU's excited about it. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who say, well, who's the blue blood in that conference? Well, maybe there's not a traditional blue blood there, but this gives every team, I feel like, a pretty even footing, a new conference to really come into and try and make their own imprint on it. So I think by and large, BYU is very satisfied with where they sit. And I think just the overall sense that they finally are in the big time, they're part of the Power Five. That is what they are most excited about.
Yeah, they have always been. I know they've been a part of conferences before, and they are in some ways with other sports. But Jake, you and I have talked about this now, along with the show, and when we've called each other and just discussed this. This happened so rapidly. I mean, this was as bad as the news was with UT and Oklahoma leaving for those left in the Big 12. Don't you think it was almost as quick and surprising how quickly this changed?
Yeah, it was very quick. I remember talking with some people as news started breaking out about this, and I kept asking people, well, what's the timeline on when this is going to happen? I in my mind, I was like, okay, this is probably a year or two away. No, they're like, no, this is happening in weeks. I'm like, what do you mean weeks? And it turns out it was not even a month. I really feel like before things were all done. I do know that BYU, as well as Bob Bowlesby, indicated during the press conference I was on earlier today that the situation the Big 12 found themselves in 2016, when they actually accepted all those applications and BYU was among them, helped them expedite this process in expanding. But yeah, it went a lot quicker than I would have anticipated.
Jake, how quickly do you think they'll be able to compete? I mean, do you think it's a lateral move? I mean, at least competition wise.
I think that they will have their struggles, and I don't think BYU fans will like me using this analogy, but it's something I noticed with Utah when they made the transition to the Pac-12. It took them 3 or 4 years, what I consider a full recruiting cycle, to really find their footing in the Pac-12, and I feel like BYU maybe is going to expedite that process a little bit more. Maybe they'll be a little more competitive than Utah was initially in the Pac-12. But I do think it's going to maybe take them 3 or 4 years before they really find their footing and truly are one of the teams that can compete week in and week out at the Big 12 level.
So what do you think about this game with Utah coming up? Charlie Brewer, we know him pretty well. Saw him play for 4 full years here at Baylor, and now at Utah, he looked pretty good in his debut. Obviously, most people thinking of BYU realize, hey, they lost a lot from last year, including their star quarterback and a couple of coaches too to Baylor. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
It's going to be a tough one for BYU. BYU fans already took one W this week, obviously, with the Big 12 news. They would love nothing more than to see that 9-game losing streak to Utah go by the wayside tomorrow night in Provo. But Utah's loaded, folks. I really think that they're going to come in expecting to win this game. But BYU does have home field advantage on their side in this matchup. So I think it's going to be another classic. I believe it's 7 of the last 9 that BYU has lost have been within one possession, 7 points or less. There's been a number of frustrating losses in that span where it seems like BYU shot themselves in the foot and cost themselves a chance to win. We'll see what happens, but I'm still picking Utah to win it tomorrow night.
I don't know this because there are rivalries, state rivalries, obviously Brigham Young and the school and who they are compared to the University of Utah. Is this a big brother, little brother game? Is this something where there's a chip on the shoulder? I know this is the Holy War. I get that. But is Utah the big brother? Is it looked that way in any way, or is it just two teams that don't like each other?
For the past decade or so, just with the dominance they've shown in the rivalry, there's just the assumption that Utah is the big brother, sure. But these are just two fan bases. They're 40 miles apart, speaking of the two campuses. The fan bases, they literally live next door to one another. It's obviously mixed up with the LDS religion. That's the predominant religion here in the state of Utah. BYU is sponsored by the LDS Church. Utah was founded by Brigham Young, who bears BYU's name. There is just so much tied up in this rivalry that the fan base is plain and simple. Even if it were they went back and forth every single year, winning home game, they just were split 50-50. There'd still be the same animosity. But based on Utah's dominance over the past decade plus, I think you do have to give them the tip of the cap as the quote-unquote big brother at the moment.
Yeah. Jake, how happy are you? Just, you cover them. You cover both schools, both Utah and Brigham Young. But you and I have discussed this, as I said before, back and forth text messages. How thrilled are people in Provo?
I think people are just elated for this. Because the fun part is now, working here in the market that I work in, we are going to now have Pac-12 teams coming in to face off against Utah. We're going to have Big 12 teams coming in to face off against BYU. I'm still a sucker for college basketball. I'm not going to lie, guys. It's something that I always enjoyed growing up. And I know that football drives things, but the thought of how good the Big 12 is going to be in men's hoops, and it's already very good in basketball, I think that is even more exciting in some ways than even the football element to it. So I'm very excited to have teams like Kansas basketball in here. I'm excited to have Baylor football and Baylor hoops coming to Provo. That's the fun part for me, is having the big time teams coming to my.
Get to play a Big 12 game in October, basically, with the non-conference game. How ironic is that they're going to be a part of the schedule this week, this year, against Baylor on the road here in Waco. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate your time. Always.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Jake Hatch, he's Yuck on Zone Sportsnet. It's on his Twitter feed. Also with DJ and PK in the morning. He's also Locked on Cougars, Locked on Utes, and at Rebelcast. Jake Hatch joins us on Brigham Young.
That's a lot of hats.
Yeah, it is. That's that Locked on thing. That kind of, when did that start? Like a couple of years ago?
4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, they've grown pretty fast.
All right, coming up next, we've checked in with Brigham Young. Next, we check in with the University of Central Florida. I know, it's UCF, and we'll hear from Brandon Hellwig. Then we'll go to Houston and Joseph Duarte from the Chronicle. And then eventually to, Cincinnati, the Bearcats. Mr. Brendel will join us to talk about that with what he does covering the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS has been serving clients for 25 plus years and prides itself on being known as America's favorite sports book. And with action on every sport across the world, we can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game. And remember these promo codes, Sikkim125 and Sikkim200, 125% bonus on deposits, $100 or more, and a 200% bonus on deposits with crypto. So if you use cash, 125. If you use crypto, 200. You can do that now. And BetUS offers those big retail bonuses to keep their clients betting longer. And the BetUS loyalty program is legendary. They keep their players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. That's BetUS.com, promo code Sikkim125 and Sikkim200.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
How about this? And I know we have Brandon Hellwig who covers UCF in just a second. I just had somebody that is a part of the Big 12 in a way said, it's been an exciting day. First day I've seen Bob Bowlesby smile. God knows that man's been crucified at one point, but he knows this is just one hurdle and not even the biggest one. It still is going to come down to how they figure out that television contract with whoever it might be. And right now, of course, the Big 12 is with ESPN, and there's something with Fox as well. Now joined by Brandon Hellwig, UCF. He's been covering them for a while. He's been on our show a half a dozen times, it seems like. Sometimes we just talk football with him. But Brandon, what does this mean? I know Orlando's a big city. What does this mean to the campus at UCF?
It means a lot. I just got out of there. UCF obviously just had their press conference in person and virtually with Commissioner Bowlesby, and it just means the world to the UCF fan base and the community. The different thing about UCF is the way is it's such a young program. So there's a lot of people. There's alumni that I know personally who were there at UCF's first football game in 1979, which was played in basically a cow pasture at some small university in Florida you probably never heard of. So there's been so many people who have been there the entire way, the different levels, moving to FBS, moving conferences, winning major bowl games. So it's just kind of a day of reflection and celebration, and it just kind of just been a big party today. I guess you could say some of the UCF fans be sort of calling it a happy Big 12 day.
Is there a sense of relief in that they've been for 5 years hard pushing that, yes, this is a team that can be a Power 5, that should be a Power 5, that should be at the national stage. And for the most part, people have been like, yeah, stop it, and now they finally been able to prove that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how UCF has felt. I know that's how Cincinnati has felt, BYU, Houston. All those programs have felt they were Power 5 level program. It's just the way it is, just the way the shoe drops. For Houston, they were kind of left on the outside looking in 25 years ago. And for UCF, they kind of felt they had built their program. It was beating Baylor. That was kind of a big signature moment in that Fiesta Bowl in January 1, 2014. It was the undefeated streak in 17 and 18 and building an on-campus stadium and playing high-level football and winning championships in a lot of other sports as well. Just, even though, maybe the national media, not everyone kind of viewed those schools in that way. I know for the four coming in, they felt like that, at least for the past few years.
So what was the press conference and festivities like?
Yeah, it was fun. Terry Mahajer, who's UCF's athletic director, he's not a shy personality. He kind of created some chuckles. He was kind of got, the crowd fired up a little bit. It was media, but there were some, donors and head coaches in there. And you were commenting about Bowlesby smiling. I did see him smile a few times. We had a little thing where they showed the Zoom on a screen, and, we were in the press conference room, and I did see it. I did see him crack a smile a few times. So, it was a great event. I actually asked, I wanted to know, because it's been about a week or so since we've known of this plan, when I think it was leaked early Thursday about the 4 schools. And I was trying to kind of think, when did you really know? I mean, when did you kind of find out? And he didn't really give a specific day, but it seems like for the schools involved, they knew for a while, that at least for a few weeks, that this was what was going to happen.
Okay, so, we just spoke with Jake Hatch. He covers Brigham Young, and they've been a really solid team. And they've had some on and off years as well, but for the most part, they can be dangerous at times. And heck, there's teams in the Big 12 that know that. UCF beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl back, in 2013. They've beaten Auburn in the bowl game. They had the unbeaten season. They have been a part of the discussion. One of the better, if not best, Power 5 or Group of 5 teams. What are the thoughts? Has it been much discussion about week in and week out? They have the base of the Florida recruiting market. Week in and week out, are they ready for the grind that could be the Big 12?
We're going to find out. And obviously this starts in 2023, which is the expectation. Not a ton of time, but with Gus Malzahn coming in and leading the football program, UCF already, even before this announcement today, they've been recruiting as well as UCF has ever recruited in their history, beating Florida for some recruits, beating Miami, beating a lot of schools that doesn't usually happen. And with this announcement today, that's only, and there's really not a better recruiting head coach in the country, at least one of them, than Gus Malzahn. And so obviously he's going to use this news, and obviously talking about, there's going to be an expanded playoff in a few years. You're going to be Power 5. I think that was always the thing that hurt programs like UCF. And, I just go years back, look at recruiting battles. UCF will maybe lose a recruit to a West Virginia or Iowa State, maybe just to pick some examples, or, maybe a Georgia Tech or somebody, just because, people felt, that those programs were Power 5, were quote unquote, maybe better, more elite programs. than a group of 5 schools. So having that Power 5 label is going to be huge. Being considered, which, I guess that's not changing. I know there was a concern about, would the Big 12 not be considered, a peer league, or could they, maybe lose, Power 5 status? Well, that doesn't seem like it's going away. They're going to be considered the same tier as they have been. As long as that remains the same, I think you're going to see a huge step up in recruiting for UCF and all those schools coming in.
How much does this maybe anger some of the other schools in Florida that could always say about UCF, even though it was growing, like, well, you'll never get to play for anything?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. I think the biggest dynamic is really going to be that expanded playoff. If you're at Florida, I mean, obviously you're in the SEC. Right now, the SEC can pretty much book two out of the 4 every year. So, there's obviously a path there. But if it's going to go up to 12, I mean, it could just so be it that a team out of the Big 12, let's say UCF, they may have more regular playoff appearances than a Florida. I mean, who knows? I mean, we'll see how it goes, especially if they have it set up so maybe top 6 conference champs go every year. We'll see what happens, but it's going to put UCF on a more even playing field. Obviously, teams like Florida and Florida State have been around a long time, have a lot of advantages, but the gap is going to narrow a little bit, and we'll see what the future revenue is for the league. I know you guys put out some stuff the other day, which sounds pretty intriguing in terms of what a future revenue would be. So that's only going to help UCF even more. They have a facilities plan that they're going to, be, putting forth here the next few months, and the different plans. And they put out the football plan a few weeks ago, so that'll be ramped up, I know, sooner than probably expected. Building some new facilities that will help in recruiting, and so yeah, it's good. It's really exciting time, really, for everyone around UCF.
Hey, Brandon, how about this? And this is something that I'll share with our audience, and this is kind of just trying to figure things out. You hear about the 35% revenue drop from the TV contract with Texas and Oklahoma depart. However, there seems to be the possibility that instead of the 35% drop in the annual money each team gets when Texas and Oklahoma leave, that could be based on what they're getting now or what they even may have gotten in the original year of like 2012 with the new contract. And that does not, 35% could be where they are supposed to be when the contract ends in 24-25, which could add more money to the pie. And that's something to be very careful and watch how that develops. So not 35% of even now, but 35% of what it was supposed to be, which is like an extra probably few million in 24-25. So that's something that kind of, I'll work on that, be in touch with you, okay?
You can crunch those numbers later. Yeah, I've already heard that from UCF sources, and I think Bowles may have said something on a Zoom that Big 12 schools, at least for the last 2 years of this existing deal, will get about 50% of whatever the revenue share would be for the final 2 years.
Yeah, because of the exit fees and all that as well. And that's all going to be taken care of. Hey, Brandon, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good to get to know you and can't wait to see the Knights. Go Knights, right?
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Brandon Hellwig, UCF Sports. So that's and Bowlesby alluded to that a little bit, but that's a little nugget. For example, in the extension of the current deal would pick up at $450 million less 35%, not what they're getting now, which in 2022, $3 million. So there's an extra $25 million minus 35%, but then distributed. And hey, everything, another couple of million here, another couple of million here.
I'm just curious to see what happens in 2024 when the negotiating window opens again for the TV contract, like what this means. There has to have been some sort of discussion with what it would be worth. I mean, otherwise you don't do it. And does the Big, I mean, that gives you the Big 12 3 years to figure out what do you do with your tier 3 rights? What do you do with those? Do you do a network like everybody else does? Is that really worth it if you're not the SEC? Because I'm not sure. The Big Ten network. I mean, the Big Ten network has a lot of money.
I mean, dude, I have no interest in a Big 12 network. I'm gonna tell you right now, somebody who like my favorite concert is the Big 12. I have no interest in watching a Big 12 network. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people do, but I think they've got to do it. If it's just a if it's just a standalone channel like the Longhorn Network is, it's not gonna really matter in the long run. I think they got to be very much on that streaming game, if anything.
What they can do, though, is now open up, and Bowlesby mentioned this. Of course, he's going to mention the positives, but what they can do now is say that they're in the state of Florida and Ohio. No matter what, that might be 5 people. It could be much more than that. But the teams that join as Brandon was just mentioning, the 4 new members, if they join in 2023, which is pretty much the timeline, they will get 50% share because of the exit payout, which the Big 12 will help them with that, and then they'll get it back with the 50% share, and then the Big 12 keeps the others. This is from the current contracted payout of roughly $25 million. So they're coughing up, actually, in a way, even more money than the exit fees will be, but getting in return more money because they're going to start getting more per year. So there's still a lot of irons. By the way, on the TV deal, ESPN, the biggest, what would be the best thing, and I don't see it happening, is CBS Sports and Fox getting involved in this. And I don't think CBS is going to do it, and I don't see Fox doing it. But that would be like, oh, my God, really? And I don't see that. But if either one of them were to do that, I think that would be at least a little bit more good news. But again, I don't expect that to happen.
CBS seems a little bit more likely to me, in that they have, Paramount Plus that they're going to want to put things on, and that might be. Fox does not have its own, like, they're not as deep into. They've got apps and they stream, but they're not as deep into that as everybody else is yet. And plus, Fox as a company just had a big sell-off, and so to me that meant they were getting so deep in the weeds when it came to live sports broadcast. I mean, they're down to several basic networks. They sold a lot. They sold FX off to Disney. They sold a lot of different things off in their, including the regional sports networks. So I don't think that they're big into that right now. I would think the ones that you want to talk to are Amazon and Apple, and really get them involved. If you can get Amazon or Apple involved, and that really changes things, because they have money. Like, they don't care that they lose money on things as much. They're just trying.
Wouldn't that be nice? Fox, by the way, one of the things that probably keeps them out, we know their NFL contract, all of these, is also that they have been leveraged hard by the Big Ten network as they continue to grow. We always hear about the SEC, but the Big Ten is an 800-pound gorilla as well. It's 4:32. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak. We're inside the press box at Gopher Warrior Bowl, the stadium in Grand Prairie. Tonight we have high school football at 6:30, Midway High School against South Grand Prairie. 6:30 pregame. Hayden Bumpus is here. Ryan Davis will be here. Armstrong Sims is running the mothership back at the studio at 101 Elm Avenue. On Baylor and their game tomorrow with Texas Southern, we'll hear from Sam Bradshaw today a little bit after 5 o'clock to kind of break that down. And Craig, you brought it up on the predictions we were asked to send in. I think I said 41-16. I wouldn't it be nice and refreshing if it was like 50-7? But I don't know if they're capable of that.
If they're not capable of that against Texas Southern, they weren't for a long year.
Well, they weren't at all. It's just kind of a style thing as well. But if they don't just blow somebody's doors off and not let this thing languish around or linger, whatever that is, and they kind of if there's anything like last week against Texas State, I would be stunned, and believe me, there would be murmurs. There would be, what in the hell is going on here? Go out and win the game 47-3. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the game. It should be a blowout. I don't need to X's and O's break it down. I know Sam will do that. I don't fear. I had to put together a list of 3 guys to watch. I came up with 2 players for them off the entire roster. So, and I just put the quarterback because, hey, he's the quarterback. But they have a couple good players on defense, end and linebacker. But so what? It'd be one thing if they had won big in recent years, but Paul or whoever mentioned it was like, what, 8-32 or 4-32. They just got beat by, not a great team last week. Not just beat, but beat badly in a rivalry game. This is the game you're supposed to go win 50-0. So I don't know what else to say about it. And if they don't, then like I just said a moment ago, then I think there's some issues. You can win by a different score, but if it's anything less than 3 touchdowns and your starter's playing in the fourth quarter quite a bit and a different quarterback playing not because of an injury, but because you're up by so much, then that's a failure. It's an absolute failure. I don't care if you win the game or not. That's exactly what that game is designed to do. It is for you to get your reserves into the game, get time, have a comfortable win. All the other games are the ones you're sweating. Last week, you weren't even supposed to sweat that one that much, but you did it because guess what? You fooled around and you got a lack of focus at inopportune times. And for some reason, you thought that you were up by like 30, and so you decided to taunt and celebrate when really you were up by less than 2 touchdowns. So if they do that type of stuff tomorrow, then yeah, they might keep it close. But even then, I think they could do that stuff and still win gigantic based on the disparity in talent. So that's what I'm expecting tomorrow. I'm expecting an easy win.
If the game isn't open at halftime.
I don't know how else to say it.
On the chat room, what a lot of people sometimes forget to understand when the Big 12 and people bring up the network, the Big 12 would have to surrender all of their Tier 3 monies, which is double-digit millions for payouts, like 2 or 3 million in the Pac-12 network. I said this earlier in the show. The Tier 3 money in the Big 12 is not included when you see the annual network payouts. Now, that doesn't mean it makes up again for the gap between the SEC and Big 10. But if you give up your Tier 3 rights, and in some cases like Kansas, just based on industry sources, like $14 million. For Baylor, probably in that same neighborhood, maybe $15 million. And it's not just ESPN Plus. That's $4 million. Some schools, Texas is probably $35 million. Oklahoma somewhere between maybe $20, $25 million. I don't know. But most of them, I guess, on average would be around $14, $15, $16 million. That is not a part of the annual money that we hear. And that is available in the Big 12 and is built in with the other conferences.
Well, because of the one thing, because of the Longhorn Network, everybody was able to go negotiate their own Tier 3 rights. So you can go and distribute your Tier 3 rights however you see fit, and you don't have to be beholden to one network. So there were flexibility options, and that was what the selling point to them was by Texas was like, look, I know we have the Longhorn Network, and we're not going to have a Big 12 network like every other conference has, but this means if we're on Tier 3 rights, then you guys have yours. So go nuts.
All right. The time 4:37. We will have Joseph Duarte. I was watching the first Zoom conference, Bob Bowlesby. It was the Texas Tech president announcing the decision, Houston's chancellor, Tillman Fertitta. Then eventually, of course, it was also their AD. And he used to play at Houston in the old days of the Southwest Conference, along with Kelvin Sampson and Dana Holgerson. How about this note? I said this before the show, but I didn't say it on the air. The last game before the Big 12 became a conference that Houston played in the last year of the Southwest Conference was against Rice, which makes sense last part of the year. They're playing Rice tomorrow. So the last game before they were knocked out of the not even included was Rice in Houston, and the day after that they're invited and accepting, they're going to play Rice as well. All right, a lot to get to as well. We've discussed the Cowboys a little bit. 254-339-1122. The chat room is blowing up. The text line, I'm trying to feed back to you as much as possible. All the feedback I'm getting from UCF or Brigham Young or Cincinnati and all three of them, or, of course, Houston as well. Everyone's thrilled about this because it was 2 or 3 weeks ago and we still didn't have a clue what was going on. And we thought maybe the conference didn't, but they have been slowly doing their due diligence and still a lot of work to do as well. How about this one from Gregory? Not to jump the gun, but if the 4 new schools join in 2023 and Oklahoma and Texas leave, the current 8 schools are going to have to scramble to fill their schedules in 2022. No.
I think they probably have that figured out.
Yeah, no. Here's another one. I'm a Memphis Tiger fan. I would be dishonest if I said I wasn't upset about being left out. I was at the Liberty Bowl when they played at Iowa State. Awesome game. We lost by a point. Love the show. Hope that one day we'll be a part of it. And I said to him, hey, there could be a chapter 2 to all of this as well.
Also on scheduling, last year proved that all the scheduling nonsense that they jumped through.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Mac Rhodes even admitted it to us one time when we said, so you got Houston scheduled in 2 days? And he's like, yeah, it kind of seems stupid. We take 4 years to get one.
It's so dumb.
Game.
It's a PR thing is all it is. It's like hey, look what we're doing. And it's just it's a little thing to get people excited. You know, it's one thing if you announce it within the next 5 years or something, but these like 15 years out, I mean, come on.
It's the way it was, and it was accepted, you know. It's like Texas is playing Alabama next year.
Next year, great, but I don't care if it's in 2045. Like, that means absolutely nothing to me. And that's what they were doing, basically, is they were saying, hey, we're playing this team in 25 years. And so it just was kind of silly.
Yeah, you know what happens when I hear that? Like, so-and-so's playing in 2035. In 2035, somebody will be like, hey, by the way, Notre Dame and Bama are playing today. And I'll be like,
Are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Here's from the 681 area code from last night. He complimented us on the Mac Rhodes interview, said that was the best journalism I've seen on the subject. Thank you. But here's another note. This is from a legal perspective. The Big 12 will continue to allow UT and Oklahoma to vote and be treated as full members until some settlement is reached. If they start breaching conference bylaws and restricting their role, Texas and OU will claim to have been breached and say they have effectively expelled them. That would allow them to leave with little or potentially no payout. So even though they're saying 8-2, they did not vote for this, though. They were not a part of this vote. They had basically abstained. Subtleties. Little things a part of the bylaws of the Big 12 that I'm learning that Texas or Oklahoma may have been sometimes writing their own rules. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. For example, non-conference games that were going through like a third party rather than sometimes being in connection to what the Big 12 needed to know. And I don't know if that should be the Big 12, but I guess it is because they're a part of the conference. But when you are Texas and Oklahoma, you kind of do write your own rules.
And you know what, though? But I'm so happy to not be hearing about that anymore. Like, I mean, I would prefer a Big 12 the way that it used to be with Nebraska and Colorado and A&M and Texas. But, those schools left, and big reason why was Texas. And so it changed it. Still love the Big 12, whatever. But, as much of a loss as they are blue blood-wise, the Big 12 certainly, in my opinion, taking a bit of a step down in just probably recognition, because they're not going to be involved just by proxy in is Texas back? Is Texas this? Is Texas that? Or is Oklahoma, is this finally the year of the playoff? Like, they're going to miss out on all that. But man, I'm not going to be at all sorry to miss the feeling of like these two matter and all the rest of you don't. And all that matters is what we believe over here, us exclusively, us two, us powers. And like that whole, even the fan base has acted that way. And it's just like, dude, if we met on the street, there's no difference. You just root for a different team. It's not like you're the one that's like pulling the strings behind the scenes. And that's sort of like just arrogance that, hey, comes with winning 7 titles for OU and 3 titles for Texas or whatever. Or do they have 4? No, I think they got 3.
Texas
4.
They had
that last
one in the 60s.
4, right?
They had one in the 60s. They had 69, split one in 70, and then 85,
4,
and then 2005.
Yeah, so 4.
Yeah.
But so that's something that not any team in the Big 12 can really mess with, and you got to respect that. But like it's like, why be friends with somebody who doesn't really care for you, except for they just have to put up with you for the time being until they go on to somebody better. And that's how Texas acted the entire time, and Oklahoma to an extent as well. So for one, we'll miss the rivalries, we'll miss the star power they do bring, but we'll not miss the condescending kind of tone that was given to the rest of the conference.
And it was. Even sometimes, as much as they were powerful because of their image, their money, whatever, they sometimes didn't help themselves.
So above you.
By the way, really. From Chris, Smokey, Paul, and Craig, Apple is dying on the vine for content, desperate for content. They have money to burn. The Big 12 should milk them if they, in fact, can possibly get to the negotiation table. So that's just another.
I just don't know how much Apple would be intrigued by Baylor and Iowa State, and like I feel like if they were going to get into it, they're won some brands, and that is where you do have a bit of a hill to climb, because you did lose your 2 big brands. If Texas and Oklahoma were in this conference and these additions were coming in, shoot, I think there'd probably be a great chance that Apple could, or someone along those lines would be interested. But now it's going to be a little bit of a harder sell, obviously.
What I would think would Apple's investment would be was, okay, let's get in the sports game here. This maybe is a good entryway. And then when there's an opportunity to go grab some brands, they can be like, look what we did here.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be smart. Yeah.
From Chase Seifert, UC Bearcats back in power. Up in a power conference, you'll soon learn that chili belongs on spaghetti.
I don't know that I'll ever learn that.
Chase, they're gone.
I don't know.
When we come back, Joseph Duarte.
I'll check it out, but I'm not sold on it.
Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle, on how quickly things have changed with UCF and Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be and possibly used to be. I say used to be because as you get older, your testosterone levels can drop. And this is for men. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues when it comes to low testosterone. It happens. It's father time, mother nature, all of the above. And so maybe there are things that just don't feel the same, don't work the same, don't act the same. You don't react the same. Could be sleep habits, could be energy, could be sex drive, could be all of the above, or maybe 1, 2, or 3 of those symptoms. It happens. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can, in fact, if you're fighting that, contact Dr. Kent Petty and his staff at pettyclinicalot.com. Go in the top left-hand corner, email and phone number. Tell them Smokey sent you. Tell them I said this to you. And then get your blood work, your lab results, the testosterone levels, and Dr. Petty, if you're too low, can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels to become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and possibly used to be. pettyclinicalot.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717, or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, Joseph Duarte. We had Joseph on recently. Covers the University of Houston for the Chronicle, Houston Chronicle. And I mean, in a matter of just, it seems like hours, it's been a few days, not many, just a handful, things have changed dramatically. Joseph Duarte, he was on the Zoom call. I was watching it. I guess I was on it. I just didn't participate. University of Houston with so many members. Joseph, what does this mean to the University of Houston today?
Well, I mean, it's historic. It's monumental. It's the culmination of decades of trying to get back to major college athletics. And, you guys know the history. You know the breakup of the Southwest Conference, how the Big 12 was formed, and those that were left out. And it's been 27 years of wandering the wilderness for the University of Houston, and they finally got today what they have wanted all this time, to be relevant again and to now have a seat at the table of one of the 5 power conferences in athletics.
Joseph, for those who may not be able to put a number on it or quantify, how much has not being in a power conference cost them in their efforts to grow?
Well, they've still tried to grow. They've just leveraged themselves to the point where, it's like, you go, how much you have in your bank account, but you sort of go and buy something anyway, and you're going to have to get those overdraft fees and all that later on down the road. But, this when you're not getting the $40 million payouts every year, it cripples you on what you can do. And they were getting $7 million in the American. And think about it, when they were in Conference USA, they were probably getting half of that. So when you think of all the money that was left by not being a part of that initial Big 12 group, it could have had devastating implications. But they had a spurt of about 6 or 7 years earlier this decade where they went out, they spent about close to $300 million to get things back in order, so that if a day like today came finally, they would be ready. But they certainly, there were lots of talks of where this program could be going if a day like they didn't come soon. And luckily for them, they finally got that invitation.
Joseph, what do you think of the members that will be coming along outside of Houston in BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati?
It's an interesting mix. None of the 4 are ever going to measure up to what Texas and Oklahoma brought to the league in terms of revenue and just the exposure. But having, been around the 4 programs in recent years, Cincinnati is in a really good recruiting market in Ohio. They're top 10 right now. Their basketball program has a lot of history. Football is doing well. You look at Central Florida, they're in another really good television market. They had a couple of unbeaten seasons in New Year's Six bowls, fairly recent. And then you look at BYU at the name brand and the fan base that they have. Their stadium, I believe it's close to 60,000 or above. So they're going to bring an immediate boost in terms of exposure from a national level. And then Houston, the results haven't been there for football in recent years, but they've shown the ability to have good years like they did under Tom Herman. The basketball team went to the Final Four. So each of them brings a little something, and I think at the end of the day, if you're the Big 12, knowing what the other option was, you take these 4 teams from the Group of 5 who are probably the best options out of the Group of 5, and it allows you to stay in business and survive.
Is there any doubt that men's basketball, with where Kelvin Sampson is, the Final Four, and I know that he managed, I was at the game, they got hammered by Baylor, but almost everybody did. Is he in better position than anybody else at this particular time to have immediate success?
Well, yeah, and Kelvin Sampson knows the blueprint. He was at Oklahoma for, I believe, a dozen or so years, and he's familiar with the league. He's kept, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State on the schedule, and he was admitted today. He said, "Look, we know that this was a football-driven decision, but what it does for basketball." He said, look, the American is a good basketball program, a good basketball conference. But when you go into the Big 12 and you're Houston and you're getting annual visits by Baylor and Kansas and Texas Tech, what that does from an exposure, from a TV standpoint, from sellout crowds, he knows that. And on top of that, you'll get 6 or 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. The Americans struggle to get 2 at times. So this is a big win for the men's basketball side, and Kelvin Sampson really couldn't ask for more of what he's got right now going on with that program.
It has been at times, TCU felt this way, bitter. Obviously, SMU, Rice has been a part of this. Houston has been this way. How much, Joseph, do you think, if anything at all, that Mack Rhodes, knowing where everything is at Houston, what the good and the bad might be, and also staying in touch with them, how much do you think he might have helped?
That's a good question. Mack was there when things really started to take off. He was part of the Sampson hire and the Herman hire, and really laying out the blueprint of what they wanted to do to build these facilities and upgrade things. And if you're Houston, you needed to have a guy maybe that's in your corner, an ally that, if it came down to it, was going to support you and back you up. And I think, deep down inside, Mack Rhodes felt like Houston was a deserving school to add to the Big 12. And, you talk about 2016 or in the past where a lot of this has been drawn out over Texas's objection to having Houston in the same league with them. I think this was completely different because you had the 3 other Texas schools that didn't necessarily see Houston as a threat, but as a chance to, add another Texas school to the mix. And, if it comes down to it, your recruiting's recruiting. Everybody's going to get their guys at some point. But I think having Mack and knowing the landscape of Houston, he was able to toss his support in a lot more than someone who had been there before.
I do know this, and I think it's fair to bring it up because at times Houston, there's been people that have made comments about academics, and there's people that make comments that are even the higher level of snootiness, the AAU, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's great if you have an institution that's in that level or whatever they call it with the Pac-12 as well. But I thought it was cool that the chancellor said it and admitted it. Hey, we had to get better academically, and it appears as if they put a lot of emphasis on it and they turned that corner. How much do you think that helped?
Oh, absolutely. This is a school that, has been called Cougar High. They've been referred to as a commuter school. And, Renu Couture has been, I think at the school now, it's probably close to 13 or 14 years. And she sort of understood where they needed to catch up and get to on the academic level. They're tier 1. They're opening up a medical school. They have the law school. There's so many things that have gone in the right direction. And then, she admitted, look, I maybe not be as savvy when it comes to the athletic portion, but I want to, or I envision being a powerhouse in that as well. So she's come in, she's their rock star. She's the one who has gotten them in position and really opened, the books for them to be able to do a lot of things athletically that had just been completely neglected for decades.
Hey, Joseph, thank you very much. I know that you've been a part of this and all over it. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing that rivalry. I think they've played 28 times, Baylor and Houston, 14-13-1. I believe Baylor has the edge in the old days of the Southwest Conference when Houston came in a little bit later on. Thanks for your time and enjoy.
No, thank you for having me on.
Houston Chronicle sports writer Joseph Duarte on the Cougars, and joining the Big 12 as early as the earliest would be July 2023. Right now, planned on the 24 season because of just the timeline of their exit and all that. Of course, will be negotiated. This is from the 8:06, and I know we got a break, Paul, for the 5 o'clock hour. Longhorn fan here, 8:06, through and through. Live in the Panhandle, and I'm a Big 12 fan. I believe the Big 12 made great choices on adding these 4. They are strong teams, will help ensure Power 5 status, and I also think Memphis and Boise would do nothing but make the conference even better. will be in Lubbock watching the games. Good luck to all. Hook 'em. God, that's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. It's not hard to not be an ass, right? And just congratulate people. I mean, why would that's the thing is if you're like bagging on the new conference, it's like, why? Everybody's happy. Everybody's getting to do what they want to do. Like, I don't know if you're like an Oklahoma fan on your way out and you feel the need to take shots at the Big 12. What did the Big 12 ever do to you other than just
give you titles?
Yeah, I mean, but so you want to slam on them as you go off to the SEC? Like, just shut up and move on. Why people gotta be so damn negative all the time? It pisses me off, man.
You know why it is?
Really?
I do think
it does.
I was kidding. You're right.
Yeah,
that's the way a lot of people feel.
But I do think this. I think that part of it is the same thing you talked about, where people like to brag about how much money their school has, even though it's not them.
Yeah.
Well, on the other end of it, if the Big 12 fell apart, then this could happen a lot faster. And because they're mad because they don't get out clean. Like it's not, I mean, it's as clean as it's going to get, but it's not the,
free of an exit fee.
It was not plan A, the nefarious plan, they still get to go and be Lex Luthor and all that stuff. But, sometimes you get foiled.
Yeah, and if they had their way, and it certainly looked like it was going to go their way initially, if you had believed every rumor about where every Big 12 school was going, like we said a few days ago, I thought Iowa State was supposed to be in the Big 10 by now. I thought West Virginia was going to be in the ACC. Why aren't Oklahoma and Texas Tech in the Pac-12 right now, guys? Like, where did all that? I thought that was supposed to happen. So, initially all these people said that, this is going to happen, it's going to fall apart. But I really do think that Bowlesby doing what he did when he said what he said, kind of put everything to a screeching halt. And they had the time to kind of reevaluate and figure out what they were going to do. And soon enough realized that, hey, those are just fan rumors. Those aren't actually conferences legitimately interested in us at this time, at least. So, it went from just straight up disaster and people on life rafts, basically, and Oklahoma and Texas just being able to go hand in hand, skipping into the distance and not $1 shorter than they were when they started, to now, it's the Big 12's fine, the Big 12's steady, and the Big 12's going to get their money. And so, you're absolutely right. I guess that's probably where some of it comes from. But shout out to all the people being positive, and especially that last texture, because that's a departure from the norm, honestly.
Yeah, because it was nice that there was a decision that was made and it wasn't because of somebody else involved. And I'm sure that there's part of them like, oh, wait a minute, and go enjoy and be a part of it. Kick ass in the SEC, Oklahoma. Hey. Here's one thing I want to bring up. The one thing I've noticed today, and it's part of who we are, human nature. So the last 2 months we didn't know what the hell was going on. 2 weeks ago we still didn't know. Then we started to get some pretty good information. We tried to report as much as we could. So today's the day they say officially, let's announce it and let's have the 4 schools leaders on. And then what about divisions? Yeah. Okay, all right. Then what about 14? What about other teams? And can you not just, I know.
Just for a day.
But just for one day, take a damn deep breath, and enjoy it. But we can't do that. And I understand that it's kind of like, okay, well, that's done. Remember where you were in a fetal position for the last 2.5 months?
Okay, who gives a crap about divisions right now? It's not a game you're going to see for at least another 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Well, and also the Power 5 thing. That is very critical. I can understand where if there's concerns about that. Don't think they just ran up 4 schools just because they added them. They kind of know what's going on. That can change in the next month or two, but that's another thing. Just enjoy today.
And I agree with that. And I'm not going to fault anybody for just imagine it. People just are interested in that kind of thing, like divisions. It's like I'm interested in wrestling rosters and weird stuff like that. But I'm not going to watch All Out 2 weeks or last weekend, which is the greatest pay-per-view I've ever seen. And all right, what's the next one? I want to just I've let that one just sit with me for a week and enjoyed it and enjoyed the positivity that came from it and enjoyed the excitement that came from it. And I hadn't even thought about what's going to happen next because I've just enjoyed how special this was. So today it's a very special moment for 4 schools because you've all been waiting very long on this. It's a special moment for the 8 because now you've helped them in having more of a future that was a bit uncertain a few weeks ago. So I do think that, let's talk about divisions and let's talk about all that's going to happen. But we got 3 years to do that. Today, I think people just need to be thank the Lord.
When we come back, Sam Bradshaw, S11 on the website, Sikkim365.com. A little nugget or two about Baylor and Texas Southern coming up this weekend, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at McLean Stadium. And then we're going to check in with Chad Brendel, who covers Cincinnati. That's the fourth of the 4 schools. So for us to have analysts, writers, columnists, etc., who cover the 4 new schools involved in the upcoming new Big 12. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. IdealMRI.com. It is where you can save a bunch of money. And I don't care how much money you have. What's wrong with making sure you get great service, incredible MRI machine, it's state-of-the-art technology, and yet you pay more than half less. Is that right? More than half less. For example, the MRI on average can cost $1,100. Usually that's about the average of an MRI, $1,100. IdealMRI.com is $497 or less every single time. Think about that. You're saving nearly $700 right off the top and maybe more. They'll help you with the insurance as well. I remember when I went through my MRI and they got my insurance all straightened out, all of that. That's what they do. And their state-of-the-art technology machine is incredible. I've been in it a couple of different times. Dr. Rob Maxey, Al LeBlanc, and the staff, the Texans specialists, they're amazing. You don't have the long wait inside of a huge room with the speakers blaring about different doctors and different this and that. You walk in the door, you check in, you've already pretty much checked in. It doesn't take long for you to go to the back. The Texan specialists take care of you, and you walk out the door, and then you'll get a call from someone, including a doctor or a specialist, that tells you exactly what they see. And they'll send it to your doctor who's telling you need an MRI. So if, in fact, your doctor, orthopedic surgeon, or whoever says we need to get a little bit better look at this, an MRI, you tell them IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube as we hit the weekend. Tomorrow, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. If you missed our segment with Clint Bruce, we hope you have a chance to go back and listen to him. He's an incredible man, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 5, and U.S. Naval Academy, played football there, and an incredible motivational, dynamic speaker if you're a CEO or someone looking for someone to do a speech for a luncheon, whatever, at clintbruce.com. We're now joined by Sam Bradshaw, S11, X's and O's guru, our football analyst who joins us. All right, Sam, this should be, you would hope that this is one where Baylor kind of tucks the sheets underneath, makes the bed, walks away. A lot of people get to play. Is that what you think might happen?
Thanks for having me on. And yes, that's definitely what I'm thinking is going to be the case this weekend. I've had to preview a lot of teams in the years that I've been covering Baylor, and this is one that they're just not in a good place. They've lost 17, 18, 19 straight at the FCS level. They've got 2 freshman quarterbacks. Their offensive tackles are really lightweight. And statistically, they really haven't been all that strong. It's something where they're kind of built from the outside in, because in the secondary and in terms of edge rushers and in terms of receivers and running backs, they've got some guys that can really play. I mean, Jonathan Giles, who was at Texas Tech and LSU, and I think has like over 1,700 receiving yards in his career, almost all of that at the Power 5 level. He's on that team. You've got Michael Badeo, who is a preseason all-SWAC kind of player as a defensive end, and he was an SMU transfer who easily could have played for the Ponies. You've got some talented guys there, but just don't have the full team. It doesn't seem like what they're trying to do is very efficient in the way they're going about it. And I don't know if they've necessarily got buy-in from all their guys. So if Baylor struggles with this team, I'll be very surprised.
Sam, how does Baylor get the deep passing game going? Is this just more on Gary Bohannon slowing it down a little bit?
Yeah, I think you've got to let him throw it a little bit more than you did last week. And part of that, they're just not opening up the playbook. They want to give people tendencies to key on. Because if you're going to do a deep RPO, for instance, you don't want your opponent to have on film, well, we know they're going to run this RPO and that they're going to break on a post route at this many yards. You don't want to give them that. So they're going to do a lot to keep that off of film. But for the most part, you're really going to get a lot of what you got last game in terms of play calling. They're not going to bust open the playbook for this one too much. They're going to work on getting guys solid reps on blocking, wide zone, and in protection. They're going to get some decent reps on Gary going through his reads on some of the basic stuff. But I don't see them doing anything too exotic. They don't need to, and it serves them tactically to keep that off of film.
Sam, what was the most concerning thing that you saw last week?
Drive extending penalties.
Okay.
They gave up 20 yards to Texas State and 2 penalties. 2 penalties. That's the reason that those drives happened. It almost doubled Texas State's yards per drive. Baylor still held them to a pretty respectable 21 yards per drive, but it would have been just an absolutely dominant 12 yards per drive if they get those 2 stops. So if you don't rough the passer and if you don't rough the punter, they have 10 points, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's what teams that sometimes.
Well, that's what makes the game look way worse than it did. It's like they dominated, but they never dominated. Yeah,
you kept putting. You said this in one of your audio things on Saturday night or whatever it was. They didn't pull the kill shot.
No.
You know, the killer instinct or whatever. And Paul, on your post game, they just never could just step on their neck and break it.
Yeah,
that's kind of violent.
That's pretty
football terms.
Extreme, but
but Sam, we just kind of kept waiting for that. Was that like, okay, now the Lions are the Bears are gonna eat?
Well, at the same time, the Bears never really were stonewalled all night. I mean, the first couple drives that ended up without points, Baylor moved it like 30, 40 yards on each of them. And then you had a fumble, and then you had a missed field goal. And then you've also had the drive where Fleeks actually caught a touchdown, but for some reason that was not called a touchdown and not reviewed. So if you just clean up your act on defense in terms of drive extending penalties, and if they call the Fleeks touchdown correctly, Baylor's at 40 yards per drive and Texas State is at 12. And you're talking somewhere in the ballpark of a 36-10 score. This is one of those games where the other team almost pulled a Bill Snyder on you, where they just do the little things to keep themselves in there, and they get these little breaks that a lot of the casual fan will miss, but just keep the game close. Now, to be fair, Texas State did not protect the ball very well, but at the same time, a lot of that was on Baylor. That pick six, that was a film study pick six, because that was an RPO. Quarterback had a simple read, and the safety knew exactly where he was going with it. He saw it the whole way and took it to the house.
All right, Sam, one more thing, and we appreciate your time and appreciate you moving around your time with all the juggling we're doing with the incoming writers, analysts, whatever. The realignment. I mean, you've kind of discussed this a little bit, but here we are. It's the 4 new teams introduced today. It's going to be July 1st, 2023 for Brigham Young, and probably the other 3 at some point around that same time based on exit timing, all that stuff, money, exit fees. Your thoughts about what all this means?
Well, I thought this was the likely outcome once Texas and Oklahoma left, just because the payouts in all these conferences are so very high. It takes a Texas or Oklahoma or a USC or an Ohio State or a Clemson or a Miami or a Florida State to justify expansion. It's just so high. And I would have said the same thing about many of the mid-tier teams in the other Power Fives coming to the Big 12. It's just really difficult. There's a reason they didn't expand back in 2016. But since Texas and Oklahoma are gone, the payout's a little lower and expansion makes sense. And I think BYU certainly proved itself. And even they particularly late at night. And beyond that, I think UCF built a brand for itself. And I think that's only going to grow. You're talking about people who actually were on campus when that stadium was actually built on campus, and they actually started playing people that weren't in the MAC. Those people are in their 30s and 40s now. Their donor base has yet to grow up completely. And you look at that, and then they can be a kind of sort of unofficial pro team in Orlando. You're going to have a lot of sponsorships. And in the age of name, image, and likeness, that's going to be pretty big for them. Cincinnati's been proven since their time in the Big East, and they've been consistently solid in both major sports. They add a new market. They add a new recruiting ground. And then Houston brings back an old Southwest Conference rivalry. Houston was one I went back and forth thinking, oh, they're certainly going to include him. Oh, there's no way they're going to include him. And without being in the room, you just don't know who was pushing for whom or if there was any pushing needed. I easily could have seen them go with Memphis there if for some reason there was some pushback on Houston, but I think Houston is probably the better pick. I think they got more intent to spend big, to win big, and I think they get you back into Southeast Texas where the Aggies and Longhorns have a lot of interest, and they'll give your conference a little bit more exposure there that you might be at risk of losing.
Sam, thank you very much. By the way, Sam has already told me he's already ready for exit fees. He's got a big news coming. When is the am I allowed to say this, Sam, on the air?
Maybe
not.
Sure.
No, he's about to have birth. Sam's about to have a baby.
Sam's not doing it. Sam's watching.
Well, I mean, yeah, but Sam, is this like Halloween?
We got our second one on the way.
Well, wait a minute. It's a 9-month thing on the way. Is that like in the next month? Is that what because you told me there might be a holdout coming?
There month or so.
Yeah.
God, you're so high maintenance. My God. Thank you, buddy. Sam, he's the best at breaking it down. I'm telling you, there's another thing pinned at the top of premium section of Sam when he breaks down the game, and then also breaks down the upcoming opponent, as does Football Bob as well. Now, let's do this because I know we're going to drop in on Cincinnati. So let's kind of like look at the numbers again, because it isn't that really what maybe starts a lot of these turf wars or starts a lot of these teams that start to get a little bit antsy or impatient. And there's no question. No one's questioning. There's two alphas. There's the Big Ten and the SEC, and of course, let them eat each other alive on who makes more money. And all of them, they have dogs, right? Mm-hmm. So we have heard when it comes to the Big 12, a lot has been said about when Texas and Oklahoma leave, and it will hurt. No question when it comes to the financial and then the image, tradition, and all that, the logos. But Bob Bowlesby today alluded to this. What we used to report, or we were, and I was, so it's in a way, this is an update for you. The 35% drop is kind of what has been said. In fact, Bob Bowlesby even said that in front of the Texas legislature. I'm not sure exactly the exact term of Senate about how the value of Texas and Oklahoma with their TV contract. But I said this earlier. The current payout year is $409 million. This is part of the original, or I guess it was the extension in 2012. West Virginia, TCU come on board, right? And then the new extension of the grant of rights, the TV. The grant of rights was put together to keep anybody else from leaving, correct? And if you do, you have to pay for every year you're not there. Or what happens is the Big 12 gets to keep your TV revenue. The 35%, if you take it from this particular year, the current payout is $409 million. But by the end of the grant of rights, which is in 2024-25, that is about $450 million. So that's another $40 million minus 30%. Okay, that's still a chunk of another $23 million or so, give or take $1 million or $2 million. That's more money than has been estimated that might be available with the extension of the current grant of rights once that's done with ESPN, and that's who it appears it will be. Secondly, the Tier 3 rights will continue, and we've mentioned that now a lot, that's on average about $15 million. Texas and Oklahoma, it's a different animal. And that's really schools going out and getting that on their own. Go find that extra money. And that money, which is included when you hear about the television network revenue from the Big Ten, the SEC, even the ACC, and I believe the Pac-12, I could be wrong on one of those conferences, is jumbled into the 50 or 60 or whatever million. With the Big 12, that is not included in what you hear that they get a year, which is 34 or 40, whatever million it is at this particular time. One of the things that obviously would make a difference is if CBS got involved, they probably won't. Fox gets involved, they probably won't either. But the bottom line is this. There is a chance that what was earlier this week, 22 to 24 million gross, could be, and I'm not saying could be as I'm just guessing here, 30 million more or more. And I think a lot of people remember what the guys who've been on the show today, 8, 9, 10 million, 12 million a year or something. That was like the max, right? Was Houston bringing up. Yeah. So now you're talking about what everyone thought might be below 20. Then we tell you 22, 24. Now it might be 30 to 34. And that does not include the Tier 3. Now, there's still a lot of little sensitive things that have to be done, Paul and Craig. But that is even more news that is now ballooned from what could be 18 or 20 maybe to the possibility of being somewhere between 28 and 32 million. Minus the 10% that goes to the conference, and then you keep the rest. It just gets a little bit better. Now, there may be a hurdle here. There might be where something happens that kind of changes things. And there are still a lot of paperwork. There's still a lot of paperwork that needs to be taken care of as well. One thing that we do know is that there's more than a pulse. This is not life support. This is now a conference that today had their day because Lord knows Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 have been hammered since late July. In a lot of ways, they probably earned it, even though it came out of nowhere and they were blindsided. And you move on. And you might have more money per year than you thought. And guess what? Once that new grant of rights extension occurs, which let's say it's 28, 30, 32, every year there's increments again. It doesn't just stick at that number. There's going to be increments as long as the grant of rights continues, however long that extension might be. So that's kind of where we are a little bit with the new teams, the 14 teams, what could be 12 teams, but what we thought at one point might end up being 8. And I got a feeling Chapter 2, and no one's told me this, but Chapter 2 is at least being written. It still may just take a while before it's published. We're live in Grand Prairie, Texas, the Gopher Bowl, the Gopher Warrior Bowl. Tonight, football between Midway and South Grand Prairie, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock kick when we come back. More to come, including how does Cincinnati think about today? What an interesting story with our good friend Chris Brendel that covers Cincinnati Bearcats football and the athletics next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. Look, they've got high-end bourbons, Buffalo Trace. Oh, my gosh, so many different ones. But before I talk about all that stuff, I've got to tell you about the fact that they're hiring. They need folks. They need people in there working for them, and it's a great place to work. If you have not met the Chapmans, you need to go down there and do that because they'll take care of you, and it's a great place to work, great people to work for at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. But they're high-end bourbons, Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service, the speedy drive-through windows, Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
So many companies and policies out there. It gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's the Labor Day sales event going on now at Allen Samuels. Come see the new Grand Cherokee, the most awarded SUV ever, with beautiful curves and design. The new Go.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers and credit requirements.
One size fits all. May be all right for an adjustable belt or sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial goals, no one wants a one size fits all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Looking for the equalizer. He wants it all on one play, and he's got it. Beautifully designed. Ben Sims, the tight end, into the end zone for the touchdown.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Chad Brendel on his Twitter feed, just a guy with a website, owner of BearcatJournal.com. Well, just a guy with the website is now a website that's about to be a part of a Power 5, Cincinnati back into a Power 5 Autonomy 5 type setup. Chad, I want to say this, if you don't mind. Chad has been kind of working stories, and yet again, how is your wife doing? I know she had some issues you had to deal with in the hospital.
So that's outstanding news. And for the first time since Saturday, they got her up out of bed and let her walk around a little bit today. So progress is happening, which is a very good thing. Well,
that's good. And tell her our thoughts are with her. And also thank you for joining us. It's been a week, as you know, and here we are. Chad, it's official. The Big 12 in Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and Brigham Young. What's it mean to Bearcat Nation?
I mean, it means everything. This is a university that kind of got left, wandering in the desert, back in 2013, 12, whenever, the Big East kind of went away, at least the Big East as we know it went away. And there was a lot of uncertainty over the years that there might not ever be an opportunity for them to get back in the club. So for this to arise now and finally give them a lifeline, I think you have to say between football and basketball, Cincinnati's done more with less than just about everybody in the country, if not everybody in the country. And to be back on equal footing and not, swimming upstream, trying to make it in a situation that wasn't built for you to succeed, it definitely feels good.
Chad, there's so many things with this. Look, there is no second big dog in Ohio, Power 5 wise. Now there is that, not that it's going to probably take too much of a chunk out of Ohio State, but it takes a little bit of a chunk out of them. And Cincinnati knows these waters. Are they pretty much ready to jump in right now and be competitive, especially if Luke Fickell now has even more incentive to stay?
Yeah, I think this team, it's going to be interesting. Because this has largely been done on the back where they're at right now as a football program has been done on the back of those first two recruiting classes Luke Fickell brought in 2017 and 2018. And a lot of those guys are going to be exhausting and what that looks like. But, it's funny. A lot of people think of it as Cincinnati and Ohio State when talking about, recruiting and things like that. Ohio State, the reality is they recruit nationally, but they take pretty much, they'll take the top 5 guys in Ohio every year. And Ohio's a talent-rich state. There's, 50, 60 Power 5 level players every year. Where this allows Cincinnati to win is it allows them to beat out Michigan State and Kentucky and Indiana and Purdue and West Virginia. It allows them an opportunity to win more of those battles. And that means the talent level still has room to continue rising for Cincinnati, which that's the exciting part.
How much of a long shot did this seem like maybe even a couple of years ago?
That's because there were always, we've had a running expansion thread on BearcatJournal.com since 2016. And it's active every day. It sits at the top of our board every day. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, tens of thousands of posts. And people kept hope alive that there was going to eventually be a lifeline. As the proprietor, I wasn't as certain as they were a lot of the time. But, it always felt like when this next round of TV contracts came up that either there was going to be movement or the door was going to close. And, so that's like 2023 was kind of when everybody had circled as to whether this was going to happen or not, because it felt like that's when decisions were going to have to be made as negotiations began, as TV contracts were redone. Nobody really saw, obviously you guys are in the same situation. When Texas and Oklahoma happened, everybody went back into hyperdrive. And John Cunningham talked about that today. He said he called Cincinnati's athletic director, said almost immediately, he called Bob Bowlesby and said, "Hey, how you doing? Let's talk." Yeah. You got anything on your mind, Bob? You got, how's life, right? It's pretty good right now. I mean, here's the thing is that running an independent site, like you guys know how this is, you're kind of at the whim of the winds of college athletics. And for a while there was a feeling like if nothing happens, or if whatever does happen leaves Cincinnati out again, like as a business owner, that we talked about this the last time I was on with you guys, like what does it mean? Mm-hmm. And to have that relieved, to not have to worry about that anymore, and to think more about, okay, now how do we, like, how big can we get? How much can we grow? How much is this going to change this fan base and their willingness and desire to be diehards, to take that step from casual fan to diehard? I think that's going to be the exciting part to watch leading into, they say 2024. We all agree this is going to be sooner than that, right? Yeah. I think we all believe that as well. I think even Bob Bowlesby all but wanted to say it. Chad, let me ask you this. Right now, Cincinnati is part of that group of 5. I don't know what it is per year on their network, how much it is, 8, 10, 12, whatever it might be. But 7. Okay. The more and more we dig into the grant of rights currently and where it will be at the end of the current Big 12 grant of rights, which is $450 million for the 10 teams, which would have been an incredible number for a lot of teams. Not SEC, Big Ten money, never will be that. Right. But now what Bob Bowlesby said is that the value of Texas and Oklahoma would probably take 35% off the number. Well, a lot of people were looking at the number now, which is $409 million. At the end of the grant of rights, it's $450 million. So it's 35% off of that. If you start looking at that number, you're talking about what may not be 18 or 20 million or 22 to 24 million. It might be 28 to 30 million before it's all said and done. What would that mean to Cincinnati? Well, and that's just TV money, right? Yeah, exactly. That's not college playoff money. That's not NCAA tournament credit. The Big 12 championship game. Right. Yeah. It makes everything, I asked John Cunningham about it in the press conference today, and I thought he gave a great answer. I said, how does this change, future projects, like a future capital fund? One thing Luke Fickell has really have been pushing is an indoor practice facility. And John Cunningham said that makes this something we can start to attack right away, because we don't have to wonder where the money is going to come from now. Obviously, you still want to raise as much in booster funding as you possibly can. But now you're going to have the capital yourself. Now you're going to be able to do things like an indoor practice facility, maybe build a specific men's basketball practice facility, things like that need to continue to happen to continue to advance the program and where the program stands. Those are critical components, and to not have to worry about that nearly as much going forward is just massive for the growth, continued development of this football program. And things like that are how you're going to be able to keep Luke Fickell, right? To be able to do the projects that he's looking at and saying, we're going to need this. And if you can, make it quicker and make it happen faster, then you stand a better chance of keeping what I think everybody around the country would agree right now is one of the best coaches in America.
Are the fans excited about playing West Virginia again? I mean, that's an old Big East rival. And are you excited about seeing Huggy Bear again?
Look, make no mistake about this. Bob Huggins is in Cincinnati a lot. So I still see one of our sponsors, actually, our title sponsor for our podcast, just happens to be his favorite place to go in town.
Oh.
So he makes his way back to Cincinnati quite a bit. So seeing Hugs won't be a new thing around town. But the West Virginia thing, I think fans are really excited to have West Virginia come back to Nippert Stadium. I don't know if they're as excited to take that trip to West Virginia. It can be a little bit of a hostile environment if you guys have ever been there.
Yeah.
But that really, I mean, if you look at the time that Cincinnati was in the Big East, them and West Virginia were the two best football programs. They each won 4 conference titles. Nobody else was close. I think the next closest was 2. So, it was a fun rivalry. The teams were evenly matched. The fan bases were close enough that there was some animosity that was, just instantly built in. And it's going to be exciting to be able to, that's the thing that the American really sapped from Cincinnati is rivalries. You had West Virginia, Pitt, and Louisville that were all a very short drive. And when those were gone, the closest school to Cincinnati in the American was Memphis. And Memphis is not close to Cincinnati. I can confirm that. I loved going to Memphis, but that's an 8-hour drive, 9-hour drive. Like that's significant if you're trying to make plans to go to road games.
You know what's interesting? Yeah, Chad, that's how far it is from like Dallas to Memphis. Is about that. Yeah. That's a haul right there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty good drive. Now I love Beale Street. Every time I thought the AAC tournament every year should have been in Memphis, the basketball tournament, because it was a great venue. And you walk out, I don't know if you've been to Beale Street.
I have.
You walk out of the arena and you're on Beale Street. Mm-hmm. So it was just such a fun event and fun place, but that wasn't, it didn't have really the animosity for it to be, a great rivalry. I did enjoy poking fun at Penny whenever he would come to town that in 1992, Memphis State at the time lost 4 times to Cincinnati, twice in the regular season, once in the conference tournament championship, and once in the Elite Eight when Cincinnati went to the Final Four in 1992. So Penny struggled against Cincinnati pretty mightily in his career. It was fun to mess with him about that. But having West Virginia, having Huggins come back into Fifth Third Arena, the newly remodeled, revamped Fifth Third Arena, and you guys need to come up and check out Nippert and Fifth Third Arena the first chance you get, because the work that they did to renovate those 2 facilities to make themselves attractive for this to happen is remarkable.
It's been an amazing week, an amazing day, and now everyone who's now a part of it, they still have work to do. Everyone has a lot of work to do. This needs to be a conference, and Chad, it hasn't always been this way. There have been, as even a former AD at UT used to say, we're the Joneses. There are some schools bigger. Some have more money. Some have better traditions. Some do this better. But the 12 teams that are going to be a part of the core of this Big 12, they can all want to beat the hell out of each other, not like each other, but they have to stay together, because otherwise it will this will be a waste of a lot of energy and emotions. And we welcome you, man. It's great to have you. Not me. We don't work for the Big 12. We cover it, but we welcome all 4 teams excited about the fact that it's grown again.
Well, it's been great. I've really, really enjoyed my time being on with you guys, and I look forward to many, many more times down the road.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Go take care of Kelly. Thank you, Chad. Chad Brindle covers University of Cincinnati. And as he said, as a guy that owns a site, an independent site, this right here for him, it's from a site that's popular to a site now that's back involved in high-level college athletics. Man, the chat room keeps going. The text, I'm trying to return as many of those as possible. We're live at, again, Gopher Warrior Bowl. It's where the Grand Prairie schools play, a lot of them. And we have a game tonight at 6:30 Midway and South Grand Prairie, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock kick. It's on 106.7 FM, a local radio in the Waco market. And, of course, Sikkim 365 online, the app, and on YouTube, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina's top 5 coming up here momentarily. We've been racing through this. It's been this long stretch since July, Big 12 Media Days, and then the hammer came down. What about you guys? Just your own personal thoughts. I didn't know what was going to happen. I always had this gut feeling that maybe that something would happen. Baylor seems to be survivors when it comes to these things in the past. I didn't know. But overall, just the two of you, your own personal reflections.
I'm happy about it. I think it's good news. I understand that there's limitations and that, there are only so many brands that, if you lose Coke and Pepsi, you can't just go and get another Coke and Pepsi. I get it. I mean, it's just not what's going to happen. But for the Big 12, maybe there's something to be said, for stopping this. Well, no, this school could never be good enough, or they could be, or they're different than us. Like the elitism is getting a little tiresome in college athletics.
Very much so.
And so why not, clearly, look, you don't want to play Cincinnati. I don't care who you are. You don't want to play Cincinnati. They'll get in your ass. I mean, you don't want to play them. So if the reason you don't want those teams to come up is not because you know that they can't be good, it's because you know that they could, and you don't want them to, and less competition makes it easier for the elite to stay in power. Well, elitism is boring and stupid and eventually leads to the same kind of debates we have all the time about it's the same 3 or 4 schools. It's the same these people. And it's probably still going to be the same because those elites will still have money. But, at least we have opportunities now and opportunities for growth. And the Big 12 can grow, and the Big 12 can be something that's new and different and innovative, as where before, they had some rules that they were not going to break because of some of their members.
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's good to know and have some concrete details on, who's coming, when it's happening. We still have some questions, obviously, about OU and Texas and when they're leaving. But, I don't even really care at this point, honestly. If it's after this year, I really don't care. I don't know how that would work if they leave after this year and then those schools still take a couple more, because then you would be down to, an interesting situation with the number of teams. But regardless, that'll work itself out. And I'm glad that there's, something to look forward to. Before the Big 12 got its ducks in a row, Texas and Oklahoma fans were looking forward to life in the SEC and didn't really give two S's about what was going to happen to the other 8 schools. And now, as somebody who follows and covers the Big 12, I'm looking forward to the future, and I don't give a about what happens to those 2 schools. And I mean, I don't have anything against them. Best of luck and all that, but I'm glad the Big 12 was able to, pull up its britches and, strap those shoes on tight and got to work and did what had to be done. Otherwise, I mean, it was do or die. It was do or die. So they did what they had to do. But now I want to see a conference that's on the same page for the first time ever. And I know there will be disagreements, but I also want to see this conference not go, okay, we did good. Now we can rest on our laurels again.
No, you can't.
They need to continue, as long as they're in existence, to be on the cutting edge, coming up with new ideas, whatever it takes, because they played sitting on their hands and just basically being directed what to do the last few years. And it led them to this make or break moment that they got very lucky was a make and not a break, because it nearly broke the conference entirely.
They had sand kicked in their face for the last 2.5 months or whatever it's been. A lot of times they earned it. And then they decided, okay, we're going to try to fight back.
Keep your foot on the gas.
And that doesn't mean you have no more work to do. You have as much work to do now as ever before.
And I'm happy for those 4 schools. I mean, I know it's a big deal for them. So that's really cool. Looking forward to maybe going to Provo one day or to Cincinnati or whatever. Yeah.
Paul, I know you got to do your top 5. Is it about the Cowboys?
No.
All right. Do you know that Dak Prescott's last 4 games, He's thrown 47, 57, 58, and 58 passes for 450, 472, 502, and 403 yards.
Yes, and they're not going to win if he continues to do that.
No, he may not. And he took some hits.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we'll wrap up an amazing week, an amazing day. Still to come, Paul's Top 5. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How about this? An award-winning dealership. And right now, what they have going on is the Ram Power Days 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Ram truck owners are the most loyal to the brand. Ram trucks are engineered to bring confidence under the toughest road conditions and impressive towing capacity, payloads, and load stability, and they offer comfort levels that exceed the demands of daily driving. Also, the Jeep Adventure Days going on. The Jeep Adventures Day, come see the new Grand Cherokee L, beautifully rugged third-row seat Jeep with the incredible Jeep arriving daily, and you're going to fall in love with the Grand Cherokee L. Come by and see all of this and the new models of the Grand Cherokee as well. And here's one thing to know. The Ram truck, Motor Trend's Truck of the Year the last 3 years, back-to-back years. Now the Vehicle of the Year, according to J.D. Power and Associates. And Buick, by the way, has been, Chrysler has also been someone that's honored as well by J.D. Power and Associates. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Dodge has been honored. You go to Alan Samuels, you have award-winning vehicles and a great dealership. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. And you have this umbrella. We mentioned the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, but you serve more than just like home insurance, or you have all sorts of different levels of different things you cover.
Yeah.
How much does that help?
I talked to a guy today. He has, Allstate on his car, Progressive boat, and, Farmers on his home. So I said, why don't you, do you know your agents? No, I just called that 800 number. Why don't you just let me quote that and we can have it all here. Makes it a lot less complicated for you. He really liked that. We have auto, home, life, several different brokerage options, classic cars. Got to ride in a 1978 Ferrari one time.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Car Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Car. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Car Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or draw in and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Val.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Welcome back in, Sikkim 365 Radio, the Top 5 at 5:55. Of course, today I could have done a Cowboys one and I didn't, because there's a lot to digest there, and I wanted to do a Big 12 one because there are still some more remaining questions when it comes to the Big 12. So top 5 remaining questions when it comes to conference expansion. Number 5, and Smokey's talked about part of this. Who are the TV partners and how much are they paying? That question will not get answered, guys, for another couple of years because the negotiating window isn't until 2024. But that's a huge question: is who are the TV partners? Is it just ESPN? Is there something interesting in there? What's the tier 3 rights? And how much is that number really going to be?
The question's going to be, is ESPN, who is in the middle of all this, and we know they were, how much are they going to say, you know what, it's worth it for us to make it worth it for them to continue on and make pretty good money so that we can move on with what we want to do with the one thing that's our mother lode, and that's the SEC.
Yeah.
I'm just glad ESPN didn't win the way that it was designed to initially.
Yeah, evil sometimes
really
does, and then we've seen a little bit of evil take a couple of kicks in the joints. You know,
well, corporate titans usually win. It's nice to see when they get knocked in the ribs. Number 4, is there a second wave for the Big 12? Is there more of this later? Memphis, Boise State.
Sure seems like it.
Military
I think
academies.
so. Yeah. I don't know that, but I get the feeling that there will be. Yeah.
I mean, just based on Kirby Hocutt, what he's saying, he's Mr. Golly. I mean, has he always been that talkative?
Well,
I've seen more quotes from him in the last week and a half than I've seen his entire tenure.
I'm not saying this because I've never met him that I know of. And he was at Miami. He was a college football spokesman, and that kind of seems to give people a little bit of power surge. I'm not so sure he doesn't want to be a commissioner.
Yeah,
and maybe setting himself up for that.
I get like DeLoss Dodds vibes, or like Oakland,
but he has been yapping.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. It's like all of a sudden his voice is like the voice. I don't think people are looking at him the way they looked at DeLoss Dodds or, someone along those lines, or a Castiglione. But I'm just it's almost like he's talking so much that you would think he's like the spokesman or something.
Even today, Mac came on. He was on with us Wednesday, and we had to kind of eventually beat it out of him. I mean, in a fun-loving way. But, yeah, there's a little bit of that. And I think I'm not so sure. There may be a story written about this one day. Behind the scenes, at some point, he talked maybe a point where Bowlesby, hey, Bob, Kirby, hey,
look, Smokey, name the Denzel movie. The loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I didn't bring that up necessarily to knock him, but it's just kind of been a little wonder of mine over the last couple of weeks or so. But yeah, absolutely. I think between his comments, Mac's comments, just other things we've heard, I don't think that they're done. I just don't know when that next step would actually begin.
Yeah. I do like the fact he was a part of this now. He got to give him credit,
but it's just like I don't.
Bob Bowlesby was supposed to be the only one and only word you heard.
That's what I'm saying. I just saw Kirby Hocutt quotes a lot when apparently nobody was really supposed to be saying anything, so it almost came across as though he was the chief spokesman, and I was like, no, you're not.
No. All right. Number 3, what happens to the conferences the AAC now goes and rates? Like, what happens to them? How do they react to this? Is there a merger of a couple of those maybe in the offing? Because if the AAC has to go and get 3 or 4 teams, then you would think that's going to put a sting on a conference. And, if there's a second wave of this for the Big 12, if you're the AAC, do you want to go after Boise State? if you might just lose
I would
them.
think I think they're already on speed dial.
You do, but but if 3 years from now Boise State gets a call, then that's.
Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to survive right now.
Yeah.
So if that means you got to get Boise for a rent of 3 years and then they go off into the sunshine or something, I mean, that's what you got to do. So I mean, not knowing their situation entirely, they're definitely going to get enough of a good wave of teams. But I mean, how far does it get pulled down to where there's not enough teams for lower conferences to even exist? Is what you're saying. So like, how many conferences? Like, do 3 of them have to become one smaller big conference or
the Sun Belt? The Mountain West,
like they're going to have to just come together, I think.
And a few others, you're right. Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah. So did they do a scheduling alliance too?
They might have to,
I mean, does the Big 12 get involved in the alliance now?
Yeah.
I mean, they might not. They're obviously not needed.
When the announcement happened, there was a few little, like, almost rose petals thrown the Big 12's way, but they were trying to maybe also, hey, let's let you guys take care of your business, but we're still here if, in fact, you do. We'll see.
All right. And number 2, when is playoff expansion legitimately on the table now? I think, Nicole Auerbach had a good article in The Athletic about 2026 seems to make sense because that's when all the dust can legitimately settle. That's when Texas and Oklahoma will be entrenched in the SEC.
Yep.
That means all the Big 12 teams will be entrenched. That means that the group of 5 teams that could be a part of this will have what their new looks are. So 2026 is probably the most reasonable time for the 12-team playoff expansion. And I don't believe for a minute, guys, that it's going to be 6 or it's going to be 8. It's going to be 12. Anybody who says it's not is posturing to try and get their way.
Yeah, I at this point, I'm just going to see where the chips fall when they fall. Because, there's obviously a lot of little politicking going on with this thing, like you're saying. And I don't know what to believe. Because on the one hand, you got – it's like the playoff gets shut down, and then here you got Greg Sankey, who, if you had asked before, is probably like the leader of the entire thing. Well, I didn't ever want playoff expansion. Well, wait a second. Like, what do you mean he didn't want playoff expansion?
He was on the committee with
both.
It's like,
I was like, well, what?
He did because he wants his team, his conference, which already gets 2 out of 4.
Right.
He wants 6 out of 12.
And as while you're bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. But then he says, oh, I didn't want to do that. And, so they're all lying. They're all playing politics. And so I don't really know what to believe. But, I think you're probably right. A few years rather than the next couple, I would think.
Like, here's the deal. You cannot tell, like, college football fans that have wanted this forever. There's a 12-team playoff model. It really makes a whole lot of sense, and we're going to do it. Like, that's like telling a kid you're going to Disney World. Like, no, we're not. We're going to Luby's. I mean, like, no, you're not. Absolutely not. All right, number 1, how much do Texas know you owe, and when do they leave exactly? That's probably the biggest question. And I would think that's probably getting worked out now a little bit more rapidly now that the Big 12 knows who it's going to be when they're gone.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Oklahoma and Texas are necessarily going to want to associate themselves too much with the newcomers. I mean, right? I mean, let's be honest about it. They look down on the current members. I don't think they're going to really welcome in and be open arms and really want to get down in the mud and play a bunch of football games against Cincinnati or, you know what I mean? Like, I know they played BYU in the past. That's why we know so much about Taysom Hill. But I just – not saying this as a knock on them in any way. I would just think that, like, now that there are new teams, they would want to get out even that much quicker to, especially that the Big 12 seemed to have settled themselves. Everybody would be understanding if they did it tomorrow. So I heard a lot during the time period of, like, well, OU and Texas got the money. They got the money. Well, I know Texas does. I'm sure Oklahoma could find some. But if they do, then, okay, go pay up and bon voyage after this year, and let's make this one the official final year and all that. But if not, then – it'll just make it a very, very interesting, uncertain future for, at least the next 4.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the top.
All right. Well, we know Baylor fans are all having their drinks, even though they say they don't. And then Brigham Young on their board, they open up the refrigerator to milk and chocolate milk. They're down in it right now, baby. That's what they'll do. By the way, one text that I'll chat. I know we're up against the clock, but I wanted to, Corey. 3 Baylor dudes in a press box throwing shade at Kirby Hocutt. Paul, where did you go to college? I want to end it this week.
I went to Florida State.
Craig?
Not Baylor, and was not throwing shade. I was just curious as to why he seemed to be the spokesman when they didn't have a spokesman. But if you want to take that how you want to take that, then I don't care.
As he's probably a T-shirt fan. And if
don't even get personal with it.
Every second we talk is a second I can't test the wireless. Let's go.
Oh, now that you're done.
No,
Corey, don't ever suggest something you don't have a freaking idea about facts. Have a great weekend. Go Tech. You're already splitting up the conference with your stupidity. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.